time.
Hi and hello, Bills Mafia. Welcome to the Buffalo Fanatics Tailgate pregame show. This is the Writers' Room. I, of course, am Adam Nanini, the chief editor at Buffalo Fanatics. You can call me the chief. And I'm joined by three of our best writers, Zach Vaughn, Mitch Broder, and Pete Rubinstein. Guys, welcome to the Writers' Room. We're so excited to have you on here. And we are going to talk some Buffalo Bills football against the Chargers. Good morning. What do you guys think about game day? You guys psyched?
Definitely. Can't wait.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Especially after last week. Or the 2 weeks. 2 weeks.
I know, right? It feels last week. All right, guys. We're going to get to a whole slew of topics. You know, first things first, we just got some news from Steve Mathis, Judge Mathis. He's in charge of all of our video and podcast guys. Those podcast guys, you know. They need some help with their wardrobe. I'm just saying. Am I right, boys? I don't know. It's pretty weak sauce. But, you know, we make it look good here in the writers' room. But he let us know that the Arizona Cardinals have offered their stadium for the Niners to play. So when we play the Niners, there's a good chance we'll be playing in Arizona, which, you know, there might be some bad juju there for the Bills. What do you guys think about that? Zach, let's start with you. Is that are you happy about that move? Is there another location you're kind of hoping for?
Well, I mean, just as long as they get to play the game, I really don't care where it is. I think Bills fans probably would have preferred either Buffalo or Detroit, but Arizona works too because they do have that bad memory, and they'll probably look forward to edging that memory out of their mind with a W against the Niners.
Oh, well, that's a fair point. He's already predicting W's. I like this. Pete, is this big news, or what do you think?
I mean, I was kind of expecting it. I did read the headline this morning. I mean, I don't really know where else they would play. That would make sense. San Francisco being a West team. I agree with Zach. I think we'll be coming into that game after, that heartbreaking loss. But I think they'll be more motivated this time around and really looking to get a dub against a down team this year.
Yeah, I agree. Mitch, here's a question. Do you think any more teams are going? I mean, there's been talk of other locations shutting down like San Francisco. Are we going to see like a slew of this as we go forward?
I mean, I think it's certainly possible. I mean, I think it was from Aaron Quinn from Cover One tweeted. I mean, he thinks this could even happen to Erie County. So it's possible for sure. I wouldn't doubt it, especially for some, regions that are definitely taking a lot of COVID precautions. So, I'm sure this won't be the last situation that we'll see. I mean, it's been a strange season already as it is, and this is just adding another kind of crazy chapter to the 2020 NFL season. So, I would expect it to happen at least once.
Well, if Buffalo does end up shutting down that area, Erie County and all that, as someone who lives in Charlotte, I do hope the Charlotte-Buffalo connection is alive and well, and selfishly, my boys come down here. That'd be pretty sweet. Guys, let's start with a fun topic, and it is the Hall of Fame. This year, Cornelius Bennett and Steve Tasker are in the Hall of Fame finalists, but there is a tough room to get through. I don't know if they're going to make it. We've got players like Peyton Manning. We've got Jared Allen, Calvin Johnson, Torrey Holt, Tony Baselli, et cetera, et cetera. Guys, I'm going to start with you, Pete. What do you think the chances one or both of these players gets in? And if one gets in, who do you think that will be?
I think both of their chances are unfortunately pretty slim. I was listening to Pardon My Take the other day, the popular Barstool podcast, and they said this quote that kind of resonated with me. They said how only players in the Hall of Fame should be the best at the position for an extended period of time. And Steve Tasker was the best special teamer in the NFL and quite possibly in NFL history. So if it's anyone who should be getting in, it should be Steve Tasker.
I don't think you'll get much argument from Bills Mafia. Zach, what do you think? Is do you feel the same way? Is there any chance our boys can get in this year?
Yeah, I would say that there is I have to agree with Pete. There's a slim chance that they get in because you have Jared Allen, Peyton Manning, Charles Woodson. Those three are probably the biggest locks to get in. And it's because they were just some of the greatest, best to do it at their positions. I would say it would be more likely Steve Tasker would get in than Cornelius Bennett based on everything that was already said about him being arguably the best special teams player in NFL history.
All right, that's fair. Mitch, just to sort of like tack on to that, I mean, we hear this a lot in Bills Mafia and also in media circles. Do you think Steve Tasker truly is the greatest special teamer of all time?
I mean, I don't know who else you could put ahead of him. I mean, we've never really seen, I think, a player, as a, special teamer excel at special teams quite like him outside of, maybe, Adam Vinatieri. But then again, Adam Vinatieri's a kicker. So, I mean, I think if we're going by what Pete said, which is the best player, at that position at a given time gets in, I mean, I don't see how, by that definition, Steve Tasker doesn't eventually find himself in, the Hall of Fame. Of course, it'll come down to the voters. But, I don't see why not. I mean, he was, the greatest special teamer to ever play the game. So I think you got to make room for him somehow, some way.
Yeah, I think it might be a real shame. I think we might never see our guys in there. There's a part of me that almost wants that, though. I hate to say that. But I kind of like the chip on the shoulder. I like the keep ignoring us, the boys. That's fine. You go ahead and do that. This is a fun question, though. When you think about Buffalo Bills not in the Hall of Fame, does anyone jump out to you? I mean, they don't have to have been Bills their whole career, but is there anybody that for you you're like, man, this guy's got to be in? And Mitch, I'm going to start with you on this. Do you have anybody that you're like, hey, this ex-Bill, they should be in the Hall of Fame. They were worthy of that.
I mean, this will be an interesting take. And I don't know if he'll ever get in the Hall of Fame, but I remember a period of time as a young boy going to Bills games. And this was the only jersey I swear I saw fans wearing, probably because he was our only Pro Bowler for several years. But if we're going to stick on special teams, maybe a little Bryman Mormon love, potentially. Yeah. I remember he was our best player for most of those mid-2000s, kind of that kind of dark era of the drought. But I think that would be kind of interesting to see him maybe have a shot at the Hall of Fame.
Oh, man. Mitch Broder bringing the spicy hot wing takes this morning. I don't know if my stomach is ready for that one, but I like it. Mormon, okay. Pete, let's go to you. Do you have anybody that you'd be like, this guy deserves to be in the Hall?
Yeah, I have two guys. One, my kind of lock, in my opinion, is Reuben Brown, the big mauler guard. He was a 9-time Pro Bowler and like a multiple-time second-team All-Pro. So I really don't see why he's not in already. He's a dominant run blocker and just a great offensive lineman overall. And then other than him, I mean, I think Eric Moulds has a decent shot. He's a Bills record holder, and although that doesn't necessarily mean a lot, especially in the playing he was in, I still think he has a fair shot at getting in the Hall of Fame.
Tim Vaughn, he agrees with you. Let's see. Scott Blakely. Let's see. We got a John Butler suggestion. I do like the Eric Mold suggestion. That's a very good one. All right, Zach, it goes to you. Do you have anybody that stands out as a Buffalo Bills player that you would like to see in the Hall of Fame and you think is worthy?
Well, funny enough, my second article on Buffalo Fanatics was about London Fletcher and why he should be in the Hall of Fame. And the fact is as I wrote in the article, he had better statistics than or was in the same ballpark as Brian Urlacher, Derek Brooks, Junior Seau, and he was by far better than Zach Thomas, who's already a semifinalist. And then I did a little more research, and he actually had some more tackles and interceptions than Sam Mills and Clay Matthews Jr., who are both semifinalists at this point. So I guess I would argue London Fletcher has a very strong case to get into the Hall of Fame in the next few years.
I like that. I like the London Fletcher take. I'm also, and he's one of the great linebackers, I think, in my life, really underrated as a player. I really like, I think Bills Mafia will enjoy and agree with Anthony Washington. We'd all love to see Fast Freddie Jackson, the Incredible Hulk in there. But maybe that's wishful thinking. I mean, let's see. So, I mean, I don't know. There's so many guys that I think get overlooked. And I think Jason Peters, when his time is up, is definitely going to be in there. Now, he's not going to be thought of as a Buffalo Bill, unfortunately. We should have held on to him. But he's one of those guys, definitely. Are there any players, like particularly in the drought years? You know, I know we had some mention of that, but anybody else you would think of that you're like, this guy is a Hall of Fame kind of guy? A drought years are tough.
Yeah, I mean, I saw someone comment Marshawn Lynch, but kind of similar to Jason Peters. I think, that'd be more for his, Seattle Seahawks days rather than his Buffalo Bills days. But, that's definitely someone who probably will, find his way into Canton one day. But it's tough to say from the drought era, to be honest.
Yeah, there isn't much there.
Yeah, he doesn't really have that strong of a resume, but I think one of the better names you could say is Lee Evans.
Lee Evans. Mm-hmm. Yeah, fair. It does make you wonder, when you think about the great receivers of all time, like your Marvin Harrisons and whatnot, like what Lee Evans and, those guys would have been if they had like top of the line offense, you know what I mean? A good coordinator or whatnot. I mean, Zach, what do you think? If you put Lee Evans with Tom Brady or Peyton Manning or Drew Brees, one of these guys, like, where would he be? Would he be in the Hall of Fame, or would he be in consideration?
Oh, definitely. I mean, just based on the fact, like, I think it was Ben Blakely who wrote about why Eric Moulds kind of suffered for having all the different offenses and all the different quarterbacks, the lack of continuity, and that hurt him in a comparison to Andre Reed. And I fully agree with that. I think that you could put the same logic to Lee Evans because he went through very much the same influx of quarterbacks and offensive coordinators. If you had him with Tom Brady or Peyton Manning or Drew Brees, maybe even Phillip Rivers, he probably would have put up a lot more numbers, would have been more consistent. I think he would be considered one of the top receivers in the league in his time.
I like it. We're getting some really fun comments. Anthony Washington, he's bringing the heat this morning. Says Lorenzo Alexander. You got to give that guy credit for being able to play so many different positions and do everything he did. I mean, he was such a multi-tool. I mean, of course, he'll never make it, but that was a fun one. Cardboard Max says Phil Hansen. Interesting. We got a Doug Flutie take. And Scott Blakely says, I wonder if he's right about this. He says, if we had won one Super Bowl biscuit, Tasker would already be in. Is he right? Would Tasker already be in the Hall of Fame if we had won a Super Bowl? Let's start with you.
That's a valid argument.
Yeah? Mitch, what do you think? Is that a thing that's holding him back? Is it the lack of Super Bowls?
I mean, I think it certainly could be contributing to it, but let's not forget, several members of those, 90s Bills teams are already in the Hall of Fame, but I'm sure a Super Bowl ring to Tasker's name would not have hurt, his chances of getting in Canton. So, I think that's definitely a valid take for sure.
Yeah, Zach, I mean, how many would we be having more in the Hall of Fame right now if we had one, like maybe against the Giants?
I would say yes, that it would be more likely that if the Bills had at least gotten that kick into the uprights, that we would have a few more, or they would have gotten in sooner. I will bring up the counterpoint, though, with London Fletcher. He was a member of that Greatest Show on Turf Rams, and they won a Super Bowl, and he is still not in the Hall of Fame yet. And he played 16 seasons, never missed a game, holds a, like I mentioned before, has all those statistical similarities to like Ray Lewis and to the best modern linebackers. So it's tough to say.
It is so strange to me that London Fletcher gets overlooked as he does. People forget with those Greatest Show on Turf teams how good their defenses were. I believe when they won the Super Bowl, they were a top 5 unit. And I believe when they played the Patriots, I believe they're in the top 10. So, I mean, this is not just an offensive team. That was a good all-around team. But London Fletcher needs to get some love for sure. Yeah. All right, boys, let's move on to something else. And best wishes to Cornelius Bennett and Steve Tasker. We're rooting for you guys. Mm-hmm. And, man, I'd love to see that Hall of Fame speech. You know why I'd love to see it? Just to see Marv Levy one last time come to the stage and introduce, right? Marv Levy is the man. We love you, Marv. Let's get to some injury news, and let's talk about the implications and how this is going to affect the Bills. So we're playing the Chargers today, boys, and this Chargers team has a pretty solid offense. Now their record doesn't look good, but man, they're putting up numbers with Herbert and all that. And coming out of the bye, we got 2 really big injury pieces of news. One, let's start with Cody Ford. Cody Ford is out for the season. I believe he tore his meniscus. Is that right? Is that correct?
Yeah. I believe so.
Yeah. I think so, yeah.
Yeah, so he's out for the season. What impact do you think that's going to have going forward for the rest of the season? Mitch, let's start with you. Is the loss of Cody Ford, is that big?
I mean, I think it definitely is big. I mean, this is a guy that coming into this season was, someone that was going to be a starter for this team. And what I think is a real bummer about it is that we never got to really see this Bills O-line completely healthy as a starting unit. Someone was always out with an injury, and I guess that's just going to be the case for the rest of the season. And it's definitely unfortunate because I actually thought, he had some pretty good games at guard this season, and I was looking forward to see what he could do with Mitch Morse and Feliciano on the field with him. But, we're going to see what, who McDermott puts out there, whether it's Bucker or Winters. But it's definitely, although Cody Ford has definitely had his ups and downs as a player, it's still a starter late in the season. You never want to see, that happen to anyone. So it's a substantial loss. It's not the worst guy they could lose, but, it still is something that you don't want to see as a Bills fan or as just anyone with the Bills at week 12 now.
Oh, boy. Well said, Mitch. Zach, real quick. Same question, but let me tack on sort of a little addendum. Who do you think the Bills should replace him with, or how do you think that offensive line should look? So how will this Cody Ford loss affect us, and how would you like to see it look?
Well, I would say that, first of all, I think we can all agree that losing Cody Ford is a big loss, especially with what they had planned for this offensive line this year, because you sort of lose a bit of that continuity, and they've been shuffling all around the offensive line. But as for who they should put out there, I think we can also all agree Brian Winters should not touch a field. He should barely be allowed to touch a practice field. In fact, in my midseason awards article, I gave him a superlative. It was called the Monty Python Guard Award, because he's that guard from Lancelot's Solo Quest who just stands at the gate while his other guard gets killed by Lancelot, and he goes on a killing spree, and all he does is lazily turn around and say, "Hey." So he should not be in the lineup. Ike Butker has actually been pretty solid at left guard, so I think you should put him there. You should do Dawkins, Butker, Morse, Feliciano, and Darrell Williams. And that actually brings me to another point, in that I know some people have mentioned the possibility of either moving Williams or Deion Dawkins into guard. Don't break your tackle position to try to fix the guard position. It's worked. Leave Dawkins and Williams where they are. Just put Butker in at left guard. make sure Winters never touches the field again.
Oh, man. Zach bringing the heat, and I can't disagree with him at all. Brian Winters, the turnstile. I love the Monty Python reference, by the way. Well done, Zach. Fantastic job. All right, Pete. Let's go with the same question. Now, you know a bit about the offensive line. You've written some for us about that. So we're really keen to get your take. Do you agree with what Zach was saying? And what would you add about this conversation?
I mean, yeah, Zach hit all the points there. I thought I agree, especially on the Dawkins and Williams take. I mean, both of them have just been phenomenal. I mean, Dawkins especially definitely deserves a Pro Bowl spot. Williams has been a pleasant surprise. I thought he was just going to be a 1-year prove-it deal, but I think that's going to turn into an extension very soon. The Ford injury is going to hurt, especially because he's been playing pretty well this season. I think moving him to guard was definitely the right idea, but it's going to hurt that he's gone. I think I agree most with Zach on the Brian Winters take. I am not a fan of him. He is not good at the guard position. And Ike Butker's definitely been a pleasant surprise. You know, someone who's been in the depth position more than really even seeing the field. I don't even remember seeing him in a game this season prior. So I think he should be playing left guard. And I think this injury would hurt much, much more if both Morse and Feliciano weren't back this week. Feliciano especially, who's been out most of the season, but when he's in, the run game has looked much, much better. Especially against the Patriots with Zach Moss and Devin Singletary both amassing over 80 yards each. So I think this injury would hurt more if our line wasn't as healthy as it is right now.
Oh, boy. I mean, Pete, that's a great take. I like Eric Specker. He had a fun take, which is put Dayball at guard. He's throwing down those wings. I could almost see it. You know, he's got that build. There we go. All right. You know, I actually did bring up the idea, and I'm going to push back on you guys. I'm going to see if I can convince any of you. Last week I put forth the idea, why not bring in Nsekhe and move Darrell Williams to the inside? And I'm not saying Darrell Williams hasn't been stellar at the right tackle position. I know tackle is so important. So I'm with you. But I think that the reason I suggest it is that Nsekhe is a solid tackle. He might not be Darrell Williams, but he's got a lot of size, and I feel like the run game would be well served by having your best five out there. And to me, if you're talking best five, it includes Ty Nsekhe. Agree, disagree? Let's hear some pushback. Zach, I'll start with you because you came at me so hard with this take, but I like it. Coming at the chief, that's dangerous.
Yeah, I would have to say that Nsekhe, I think what I heard about him is that they don't think that his knees could hold up, and that's why he's not starting at right tackle at the moment. I mean, I think unless like Butker mightily struggles this week and then they have to choose between Winters or moving Darrell Williams to right guard and then Nsekhe at right tackle, I think I would go with putting Nsekhe in at right tackle and shuffling that. That would be the only exception to my keep them at tackles take. But outside of that, I just don't see them actually using him that often. I think they'd be also more likely to use Ryan Bates as an extra blocker.
Okay. Mitch, what are your feelings on this? You haven't chimed in on the Nsekhe take on this. What do you? Obviously, we all are in agreement that Winters should be off the team. I mean, if they cut him tomorrow, would anybody be upset? Nobody?
I mean,
okay.
Not me.
Not me.
Nope.
I mean, I think, kind of like Zach said, I mean, I think with Nsekhe, you definitely got to worry about, his knees. I know last year there were some, reporters saying that after games, sometimes they could see him, just wincing, walking off the field, if he was playing significant snaps. And I think also with Nsekhe, I like Ty Nsekhe a lot. I think he's a really good player. But the thing is, if you put him out there, you really have no, depth at tackle anymore. You're playing all three tackles at the same time. And if anyone gets injured, that's a little bit of an issue. So I kind of like the idea of just kind of keeping him off the field. And just in case, God forbid, Darrell Williams or Deion Dawkins gets hurt, you have someone who can just step in and play at a high level. And kind of going off Zach said, definitely, got to give a shout out to my fellow Nittany line. If anything, I'd rather see Ryan Bates, I think, out there at guard if Bucker's struggling rather than Nseki, because I actually think Bates has been pretty well in the limited opportunities he's played. But I think, keeping Nseki either, at tackle and on the bench just because, we're already a little thin at tackle, and the last thing we need is to see him or, one of these other guys get hurt. So.
All right, I like it. I think you guys probably convinced me, and I appreciate it. But, maybe in the playoffs? I don't know. Something. At least it's an option. I think it could be fun. So the other big injury news, and I don't think it's been a surprise to anybody, and that is that John Brown went to IR. He's been struggling with leg injuries all season long. One of the Smurfs just keeps taking these hard shots. I've been arguing all season that John Brown is the most important weapon in this Bills offense. And the reason is because during scramble drills, when Allen is doing his greatest show on turf sort of act where he's running around like a crazy person, Brown's the guy he trusts, even more so than Diggs. So I don't know. This could be big. Let's start with you, Pete. How important is this Brown injury, and how will it affect the game today against the Chargers?
Well, I think this Brown injury is pretty important, but not as important as it could have been. For the first time in a while, the Bills actually have some depth at the wide receiver position, which is something we really have not been able to say. Gabriel Davis has really stepped it up. Isaiah McKenzie is not really, he's a reliable option despite his size. But Adam, I want to make the argument that Cole Beasley has actually turned into that most valuable receiver or consistent receiver for the Bills this year. I mean, he's made some huge plays this season. I mean, we saw it against the Cardinals, that huge third down conversion, that one-handed snag. I mean, he's just been that guy this season. He's on the early side of the 30s, but I think he's going to be in Buffalo for a little while longer. And another name to, possibly take a flyer on. I know I already said that the Bills have wide receiver depth at the wide receiver position, but Kenny Stills was released the other day. I'm not saying the Bills should go out of their way to sign him, but we should definitely keep that idea in our back pocket.
Boy, I like that. We got a super chatter. Lance Nelson asked, did we bring back Brown too soon, or was his injury unrelated to playing hurt? That's an interesting question. Mitch, let's go to you on this one. Do you think we've mishandled Brown this season? I think it's an excellent question. Thank you, Lance, for that. Have we mishandled how we're playing him? Have we relied on him too much? What do you think, Mitch?
You know what? I actually think it's been, as far as the management for John Brown, I actually think it's been okay. I believe why he's out is that ankle injury that he sustained against Arizona on that really awkward looking hit that he took where he kind of fell backwards. I thought it was a knee injury live. I was worried that he might have tore up his knee, but that was an ankle injury. So I think that's why he's out. And, his knee has definitely been a little bit of an issue throughout the season. So, I mean, it's tough to say when you're a team trying to contend for, the division and a top spot in the playoffs. You kind of got to give it your all. And, John Brown's a tough guy despite, his size. He wants to go out there and play. So, I think had he not had that, awkward ankle injury against Arizona, I think we'd see him playing today. So, I think they've managed him all right, all in all.
All right. We got a great question from Ryan Horton. He asks, Hodgins sighting soon to come. Isaiah Hodgins. Zach, what do you think? Are we going to see Hodgins at some point?
Yeah, I think we'll see him eventually. I think that's the reason why they designated him to return from the IR, which gives them obviously 3 weeks to make that determination, which is a good thing, especially because it coincides with John Brown's injury. I think that may be why they put John Brown on the IR, so they have that roster spot open for him next week.
Oh.
That being said, I know we won't see him this week, so we'll have to wait and see. I will say we'll see a lot more Gabriel Davis, hopefully, and someone who I believe should be allowed to eat a bit more is the Renaissance man, Isaiah McKenzie.
Oh,
I consider jet sweeps to be runs, so he has ran for touchdown, caught a touchdown. He even threw that wicked block against Miami. He can do it all. You need to get him more involved. Bring back the jet sweeps.
Okay, this Zach is on the Isaiah McKenzie train. I like it. And, he's been hitting up Twitter a fair amount lately, which has been fun to watch. Hello, Mr. McKenzie. We enjoy you. You are the Smurfiest of the Smurfs. So I don't know if that's a compliment. All right. Well, that's a great question, though. Let's lead into this. Against the Chargers today. I mean, I think you guys, Pete, you made a great point about Cole Beasley maybe being his most, Allen's most trusted receiver. But a lot of the season we've had Diggs, Brown, and Beasley on the field. And when Brown hasn't been there, we haven't been able to replace the yardage and, the impact. In today's game, ideally, Zach brings up McKenzie. Maybe that's the answer. How do we replace Brown's impact, his play on the field? Who do we turn to? And, Mitch, I'm going to start with you on this one. How are we going to replace Brown's numbers today?
I mean, I think Zach definitely alluded to it with Isaiah McKenzie and just kind of getting a little bit creative with the receivers you have. But I think if anything that this, they talked about over the bye week fixing this run game. This is the time to do that. You're missing one of your top receivers, a guy that's kind of the X factor of this offense, and that run game outside of that New England game has been pretty much non-existent. And this would be the time to at least get something out of it. I think we can all sit here confidently at Week 12 and say that this is not necessarily a run-first offense at all, and I don't think they'll ever be. But they got to get something out of Singletary and Moss moving forward. So this is a good chance for them to really get that run game moving, take a little bit of pressure off the passing offense, and specifically kind of fill in for Brown, essentially, especially in the pass game, too. I mean, both those guys, Moss and Singletary, can catch the ball pretty well out of the backfield. So I think getting those running backs more involved in the offense would definitely help alleviate some of that, missing presence with John Brown out.
Mr. Nelson suggests, what about splitting out Singletary and having Moss in the backfield, then run the triple option jet sweep with Allen, Moss, and Singletary? Lance, I like where your head's at. This is good. I'll bring that up to Dable next time I see him. Mitch, that's a great take, and I think maybe getting Morse back and getting a little healthier on that offensive line could really be key. It's hard to blame Singletary and Moss this season when, whenever you see a running back getting tackled in the backfield and they're getting no time, excuse me, makes you wonder, it's not their fault. One thing I've been wondering about, and tell me if this sounds true to you guys. I want to get back to the original question, but doesn't it seem like the Bills have like a tell when they're running the ball? Because, we're spreading them out, we're doing all these things, and there's something about our plays that when we run the ball, it's like the team is crashing down. They know it's coming. They're not buying on anything. It's like, Zach, have you seen any of this? Do you think that maybe we're having some tells along the offensive line? Maybe Josh is giving it away, something?
Yeah, I think that there has been a bit of a tell. It seems like, for the most part, when they try to run, they either run to the left or they just happen to run out of under center. So it's like the only times they seem to do anything under center is either play action or running the ball. And I think that you could just mix it up a little. Maybe come out in an empty set and do the quarterback draw, even though they may see that coming from a mile away. Or like he said, maybe like the previous commenter said, do something different, put both the running backs on the field. If you watched the Washington-Dallas game, you saw they used McKissick and Gibson a lot of times out of the backfield and even put McKissick in motion. Singletary could be a decent, creative package slot receiver or something. Or you even just put both of them in the backfield, put Isaiah McKenzie in the slot, and then figure out a way to incorporate either jet sweeps or maybe turn into a quadruple option. Why not add a dimension? Think outside the box.
All right, Zach, I'm gonna cool down your Isaiah McKenzie heat. I like it, but he can't be in every play. But it's good. No, I'm just teasing you. That's great. I like it. I think Singletary could be an interesting option out the slot. Pete, let's get back to that original question. How do we replace John Brown's numbers and effectiveness today against the Chargers? What is the key, do you think? Who do we turn to?
Well, I think Mitch nailed this question. I think this is the perfect week, and it's going to be the time to establish the run game, especially with Brown, such an important key member of our offense, out. But if that run game if the Bills fail to establish that running game, I think this is Gabriel Davis's time to break out. Davis has been, one of the overlooked guys in just such a stacked wide receiver draft class, but he's been quite the pleasant surprise to the Bills' offense, making some huge plays. I mean, to start off the game against Las Vegas, he had that huge 26-yard touchdown. I think once the Bills really get him going and establish him more in their offense, I think he's going to be a player to watch, and I think he breaks out today.
Okay, that is fair. That is fair. My knock on Gabe Davis, and look, I love this kid. I think he's got so much potential going forward. It reminds me of some of the bigger wide receivers when they come into the NFL. I remember watching, Calvin Johnson his first season as a wide receiver in the NFL. And I remember he was not, so great at contested catches in the NFL. It's different between college and the pros, and you see the talent level change. Now, certainly he became maybe the best of all time or up there. I would like to see Davis improve in terms of contested catches. He's a big guy, and you got to learn to use that frame because he's not separating from people. So I'm keen to see what he does. Guys, is it possible Dawson Knox maybe has a rebound game? Maybe he has like an AJ Klein game today. Like people have been hearing, he's been hearing the bad mouthing. He knows how people are ripping on him. Maybe he wipes that butter off his fingers. Mitch, what do you think? Could we see a solid Dawson Knox game today?
I mean, I wouldn't say no to necessarily anything here, but with Knox, it's tough. Like, I love to see him, give us something, because last year he showed us some glimpses as a rookie, but it just hasn't been his year. I don't know what else kind of to say. I mean, injuries, penalties, drops, it's just not been a season this year, and I kind of think that the fact that we've seen Tyler Kroft more than anyone really be that tight end one, I think is kind of a sign that I don't think Daboll really trusts him. And, ultimately he had that crucial holding penalty in that Arizona game that I think the next play was an interception that took away a great play from Allen and Singletary. And that, I think, kind of encapsulated Dawson Knox's season, which is just not really making, plays for this offense. So, as much as I'd love to see him just give them something at the tight end position, because he is such a great athlete for a tight end, I just don't think that that's a guy at this point in the season that Daboll and Allen and McDermott are really willing to trust and put some faith into when he's kind of showed you nothing through 10 weeks so far.
That's fair. I mean, I think the play that really got to me more than anything was one-on-one when Jamal Adams just blew him up on a pass rush, and I was just like, Dawson, come on, bro. That one it plays in my head when I think of Dawson Knox now. I've been the driver of the Tommy Sweeney fan base for bandwagon for quite some time, and I was very sad to see he is out for the season. Get healthy, Mr. Sweeney. I really want to see what he can be. I like that kid. Guys, let's shift gears a little bit. If you want to take digs at Knox, you can do so. I mean, at any point, but that's fair game. Well, first of all, it's Stephon Diggs' birthday today. Happy birthday, Mr. Diggs! Real quick, let's guess the stat line. Let's Diggs' birthday stat line. A lot of people have been bringing up Diggs' birthday, how it's going to impact him today. Zach, let's start with you. Let's give us a spicy hot prediction here.
Well, I guess if you're looking for spicy hot, and it's in honor of his 26th birthday, I will say he has, let's see, how about 12 catches, 100 yards, and 2 touchdowns.
It's a very conservative spicy hot. It's kind of like when you go to a wing place and you ask for like their atomic wing, and it's kind of like medium in other places. But still, I like it. No criticism. Pete, how about you? What do you think? Diggs' stat line. Do you have any interesting takes? What you think you might see from him today?
Well, I think Diggs is going to have a good game, especially since it's his birthday. But another thing to keep in mind is that Casey Hayward is out today for the Chargers. So I think there's the potential for him to go, to reward himself. I think he has 9 to 10 receptions, 100+ yards, and at least a touchdown, maybe 2.
Pete also bringing the conservative, realistic takes. I like it. You guys keep me grounded. This is good. Mitch, how about you? You got any thoughts on Diggs' day today?
I mean, I definitely think we're going to see Diggs get at least 8 grabs today. I see him going, kind of like a Miami day. I see him maybe going for like a $150, $130 today. I think he'll have one of his better games, maybe a score or two. Because as Pete said, with Casey Hayward out, I like Diggs matchup on any corner on that team. So give me Diggs for 150 yards today.
See, Zach, Pete, you guys could learn something from Mitch. He knows something about pricey hot takes. This is good.
Hey, I don't disagree.
All right, let's get to something maybe a little more of a bummer, or I don't even know what to think. Maybe you guys can talk me down. Ed Oliver. Look, I hear the guys, the analytics guys, Ed Oliver's playing amazing. And you know what? I watch Ed and I look at the tape and it's like, he's winning a lot of these, pass rushes, and he is penetrating. He is getting in the backfield. But to me, the thing that people talk about, like the whole pass rush win rate thing, any metrics like that, what bothers me is that stats show me the player has overcome something. Like, yes, they were winning, and not only that, they were able to complete the play. And, we have just not seen, certainly Oliver was compared to some of the great defensive tackle pass rushers in NFL history. I mean, and thus far in his career, he's not John Randall. He's not even his cousin, Stevie Randall. All right. Now, I'm not trying to rip him. I love Ed. I love Big Ed. He's great. He's Captain Insano. But I can't help but think that maybe, he has not lived up to his draft status, and I wonder if he ever will. I'm worried the B word, bust, is coming. Pete, let's start with you on this one. Am I crazy for starting to worry about this?
Unfortunately, I don't think you are. It really bums me to say that. However, I think, I'm a firm believer in stats are for losers. Analytics aren't as important, but sometimes they really are. One of the things my defensive line coach emphasized to me in high school was double team destruction and plugging the gaps. And I think he's done a pretty good job of that, especially with the pass rush and winning those pass blocking rates. So I think definitely the stats don't stand out. I think that is an issue. However, he's doing more than one might think by simply just looking at his stats.
Pete, that's a very measured take, and I think you're probably right about that. Zach, what do you think? What do you want to see from Ed? I mean, where are you on the Ed Oliver takes?
I would say that actually this game might be a great day for him to actually break out and have that AJ Klein type day, because the Chargers offensive line isn't really that good. The only reason I think the Chargers always stay in the game is because Justin Herbert is doing insane things as a rookie quarterback. And yet he's also on the Chargers, so of course they're going to lose by a score late in the game. But besides the point, I would have to agree with Bruce Nolan from Buffalo Rumblings in that with the bust label, you might want to wait until after year 3. I mean, I think also part of the reason everyone may be down on Oliver is not just because of the lack of stats, but also because, like you mentioned earlier, everyone was comparing him to some of the great defensive tackles in the game coming out of college. So, of course, you have higher expectations, lower production, and it's automatically going to result in this sort of overreaction that maybe he isn't that good or he is a draft bust from the 9th overall pick. But I just think that we need to give him a little more time, especially because also someone else we kind of neglect a lot is Starlu Tulele opted out. So we didn't have a one technique this year. And they've been trying to use Ed Oliver in that role, and he's undersized for that. Even Justin Zimmer's been better in that role. Shout out to him, by the way.
Yeah.
But hey, I would say we just need to give a bit more time for Ed Oliver. Even Dawson Knox, as much as I want to criticize him, he was also developmental tight end when the Bills drafted him anyways. He wasn't used that much in college. So a little bit of patience and could go a long way with those two.
Well, I mean, we're getting some takes on this Ed Oliver thing here, and I think your point there, Zach, about star and comparisons is a fair one. Scott brings up, he's playing one technique a lot of the time. We never see flash from Star either, but if he's not in the lineup, it makes a difference. Rick James agrees. Travis Blakesley says, if you think Oliver's a bust, you only watch the stat sheet, not his play. He does his 111th. And I do agree, Travis, you are saying a lot. I'm just saying stats aren't nothing. That's my argument, because I feel like we are getting a little bit too heavy on the analytics. And I'm not saying stats are everything, but I do think that, stats show something. It shows character. It shows the ability to finish the play. And I do think that matters. Look, I nearly blocked that guy. I almost sacked him. There's a lot of almost, and those are great, but they mean nothing. They mean nothing. So I think there has to be a balance between analytics and stats. Mitch, what is your take on all of this?
I mean, for Oliver, I mean, I do think that, one thing we have to remember is coming out of college, he was a little bit of a project player, a little bit of a developmental guy. So, it's going to take some time for him, I think, and like you said, the fact that this was a guy that was being compared to, being called the next Aaron Donald. I mean, that's not a label that's really fair for any player to get put on them. And I think that, Ed Oliver, I wish we could see a little bit more out of him. Of course, I expected big things out of him when they drafted him, 9th overall. But, it's exact. Without Star, there's a lot of things not really working in his favor at the moment. And I think that, given some time, I think he'll start to put it together. And then as far as the analytics or the stats, I think it's a little 50-50. I think that you take some of each because we've all seen with Pro Football Focus with their analytics, how, crazily they've graded some Bills players, up and down. That makes, really no sense. So I think that, you got to take a little bit out of each and kind of go from there instead of just relying on one or the other, because they both don't really tell the full story and, of what's going on. So those are my two opinions on both of those matters.
Mitch, I'm with you on this one. We're getting some heat coming at the Chief about this take, but I don't care. I'm the Chief. You can come at me if you want to, but I'm happy. I'm happy you guys are engaging. And I hear the arguments about stats versus analytics and all this other stuff. I do find it a little strange when I'm hearing commentators talk out both sides of their mouth, ripping Pro Football Focus or something like that one moment, and then using their stat when it fits their narrative. And it's like, which is it, boys? You can't have both. So there's that. All right, guys, here's a question for you that I've been worried about all week, and that is the slot corner position this week. Keenan Allen likes to play out of the slot, and he's been absolutely amazing this season. Probably one of the most underrated receivers in the NFL and has been for a number of years. How do we stop Keenan Allen today? And does it involve Josh Norman? That's an interesting question. Pete, I'm going to start with you. What do you do to bottle Keenan Allen against the Chargers?
Well, I think Josh Norman could very well be in that picture. We've seen an improvement in play from Taron Johnson, someone who had a really good rookie season back in 2017, but really hasn't been the same since. Other than that, I really don't know. It would be great to see Josh Norman lock him down, but just the way Keenan Allen's playing versus the way Norman's been injured and nationally embarrassed on television on multiple occasions, it's just going to be very, very tough to slow down Keenan Allen today.
Zach, what do you think they're going to do? Is there a game plan you'd like to see to take Keenan Allen out of the game?
Yeah, I think actually what the Bills should probably do, even if they do run the mainly zone defense they usually do, maybe they should shadow Trey White on Keenan Allen. He is clearly their number one receiver. You pay your number one corner to combat the number one receivers. Outside of that, as far as the nickel corner goes, I would say that I would prefer to see Dane Jackson over Taron Johnson and Josh Norman. But then again, we don't know if he's healthy or not. I don't think I saw his name on the injury report, but I would say that if you were going to put one of a physical back in, or cornerback in, I should say, then put Dane Jackson and give him a chance to prove himself. I mean, you've already thrown him into the fire twice. Why not throw him in one more time? This time against a number one receiver, though I realize that's a bit unrealistic, and they'll most likely just go with Teron Johnson or Josh Norman and just rotate them in, even though I don't really have much confidence in Josh Norman at all.
No confidence in Josh Norman. That's fair. We're getting some laughs from Lone Wolf, who says old slow Norman will shut him down. Well, Keenan Allen is not exactly a speed burner, okay, guys? Let's be real about this. And I think that Norman, for as much as he's been, tossed aside by the media, and quite literally, I think he's had moments this season. I'm curious to see, and we have pretty much our full slate of cornerbacks back. Mitch, I want you to answer this question about Keenan Allen, but also I'm curious, with everybody pretty much healthy in the secondary, how do you see everybody lining up? Who's getting the starting snaps? Who's getting that nickel play? How big a role is Dane Jackson play? Is Teron Johnson on the bench today?
I think, if anything, that, what we see from McDermott, it's always going to take him a little bit of time to make a substantial change. So I think that the secondary is probably still going to be White, Wallace, and Johnson in at slot corner is my guess. And I think that also, with this Chargers offense, it's not just Keenan Allen. There's also Mike Williams you got to worry about too. And I think that as far as who's covering Keenan Allen, it comes down to, as a defense, what are you willing to maybe kind of risk? Are you going to risk, Keenan Allen kind of dinking and dunking, underneath, or are you going to risk, potentially Mike Wallace taking the top off, the secondary? I think that's going to be the question that, we'll see what McDermott and Leslie Frazier decide to answer that with. But I'm going to go with, I think that Taron Johnson will be seeing a lot of Keenan Allen today. I think there's going to be a lot of zone coverage, though. I think you'll see a lot of different guys kind of keeping tabs on Keenan Allen. I wouldn't even be surprised to see Poyer maybe up in the box a little bit, kind of around Keenan Allen too. So I think you're going to see multiple different players, kind of around Keenan Allen today. But I do see Trey White, I think actually more than anyone, maybe shadowing Mike Williams, because Trey White can play with those big receivers. Even though he's not the biggest guy out there, he's got a pretty good record going against bigger, stronger guys. So that's what I think McDermott will probably do today.
All right. Anthony Green had asked, is Wallace back today? We've had a few questions like that. Yes, it looks like Wallace is healthy, and I like Levi Wallace. I think he gets a little bit too much hate. And I saw that guy when he went. I was at the joint practice between the Panthers and the Bills last year. I swear to God, I've never seen longer arms to body ratio in my life. That guy, I swear, standing straight up could touch his knees. It was pretty insane. All right, guys, we're getting toward the end of the writers' room segment of the Buffalo Fanatics Tailgate. Let's get some predictions for this game in Orchard Park when the Chargers come to play the Bills. This is what the people are waiting for. This is what they want to know. Who's going to win? And what do you think the score will be? Let's see. Pete, let's start with you, man. Let's start us off with a bang. Will the Bills have any luck today, or should they be scared?
No matter who we're playing, whether it's the Chargers, the Jets, the Cardinals, you can't overlook them. And this team in particular, the Chargers, they're better than what their record actually is. We all know it. They've blown some pretty important games this year. However, I think the Bills, coming off the bye week, coming off that national embarrassment on TV, I think they're fired up. They're ready to play. I think it's 38-21 Buffalo.
38-21 Buffalo. Without Brown, Pete's bringing the guns. He says we're going to be dropping some bombs, putting up some numbers. Pete, I like that take. I feel like you were working on that spicy hot wing take. That's good. Zach, what about you, man? What do you see happening in today's game?
Well, this may sound a bit predictable, but I think that the Chargers continue to follow their usual storyline of it ends up being last chance with like maybe a minute left, and they have to go down the field like 75 yards, and Herbert will probably throw an interception, and the Bills will seal the game. I will say, and in addition, I will say not only will it be a shootout between Allen and Herbert, it may be also a catch-off between Keenan Allen and Stephon Diggs, who have both noted that they took a lot from Stevie Johnson in terms of their gameplay. So I will say that the Bills win 38-31.
38-31. Okay, I like it. Mitch, well, before we get to you, Mitch, on this one, I had a really quick follow-up question. One of the big weaknesses for this Chargers team has been their special teams unit. That has let them down all season. Do you think the Bills, both, in punt block, and Andre Roberts and all that stuff, do we have the special teams unit that can take advantage of, I believe, the worst-ranked special teams unit in the NFL? Real quick, Pete, what do you think about that one?
Absolutely. Andre Roberts has proved that he's a very solid returner, both kicking and punting. He hasn't scored yet for the Bills, but he's come this close in so many games. I think this is the game he finally does and takes one back to the house.
All right, Zach, what do you think, man? Are we going to see – I mean, we haven't seen much in the way of, punt block, field goal block, anything like that this season from the Bills, although, we have a tight end / fullback who was very good at that in college. I don't know. What do you think, Zach? Can we take advantage of the Chargers' weakness, or is that something we just don't have the power to do?
I think that the Bills will figure out ways to get good field position off of kickoffs. Like we already said, Andre Roberts is a Pro Bowl return specialist. He will find ways to carve him up like the Thanksgiving turkey we all had last week. And as for whether or not he'll get a touchdown, I will take the hot take route, and I will say he will have a kick return touchdown in this game. As for the block kicks, I think if the Bills are smart, they will just stack the box every time they punt the ball. And that Reggie Gilliam could potentially get a block punt in this game too.
I love it. I love it. I love the Reggie Gilliam takes. Zach, I like my takes spicy hot, so that's good. That was good. I like that one. Mitch, so you get sort of let's hear your prediction, but start off with what your thoughts are on the special teams question, because I do think that is, been the kryptonite for this Chargers team, or do you disagree?
No, I definitely agree. I mean, the Chargers special teams, I feel like it's been bad for, as long as they've been losing one-score games and getting a million guys on IR. That's right next to it all too. But I think that, with the Chargers, I'll say this with special teams. I think that Roberts has got a chance to take one back. He's come very close. It seems like every game, and you got to think eventually he'll get that key block, to get to the end zone. I also see maybe some missed field goals today from the Chargers. That seems to always be a problem with them. So I'll go with those two things. As far as the, blocked punt, blocked kick, those are, so rare and hard to come by. I'm not saying that it couldn't happen. I have no idea if it will. And then, going on with the prediction for this game, I think that, for this Chargers team, their defense has not been good this season. The pass rush has been a little disappointing. They got some guys hurt. So I think the Bills will be able to put up some numbers. I did see an interesting stat actually today. Sean McDermott is 4-0 in his career coming out of the bye. And I think that will probably go to 5-0 today. I think that Buffalo probably will win this game. I think that, McDermott will be able to put together a good game plan, confuse Herbert. Listen, Justin Herbert's a tremendous rookie, and he's going to make some plays today that are going to be awesome. But I like McDermott being able to show some things that Herbert has never seen before. So I will take Buffalo 41-28 in this game. I think that the Chargers will put up a lot of points, a lot of yards. I just think that the Bills will put up a little bit more. So that is my final score prediction for you today.
All right, Mitch. You're very well reasoned here, and we're getting lots of questions about will Bojo shank another punt today and things like that. That's a good question. Guys, my prediction is going to be a little more dour. I hate to say it. I think the Bills are going to lose 34-31. I think the return of Austin Eckler is going to be very important. I'm really hoping this Bills defense can look like a little bit more of the Bills defense in 2019. I worry about it. So I actually think this Chargers team, as Pete and Zach both said, is better than the record shows. And I worry about this game. This feels like very much a trap game. Now, the Bills do play well at 1 p.m., so maybe that'll help. I'm definitely hoping I'm wrong, but this is the game I really worry about. So we shall see. But guys, we thank you so much for joining the writers' room this week. I hope everybody enjoyed. And really quick, tell us what you're doing on writing for on the BuffaloFanatics.com. Let's start with you, Pete.
I am writing about more of the offensive line, about how that shapes out, especially throughout the rest of the season, with the offensive line being more healthy than it has been, although Ford's been out. Just focusing on them, the big men up front who don't get the recognition they deserve.
All right. Zach, tell us, what are you working on the BuffaloFanatics.com as a writer?
Well, every Tuesday I come out with articles, and for every game in this Bills season, I do a sort of a profile of who I feel is like the game changer or one of the key players from the game. And then I try to compare them to past greats or past Bills fan favorites. Like, for example, I did Josh Allen, comparing him to the Jack Kemp, to Doug Flutie, Stephon Diggs, Andre Reed, of course. Last week, the last game, I compared. Well, actually, I should say a couple games ago, I compared. I did Dane Jackson, Levi Wallace because of the narrative, George Wilson comparing him to Jordan Poyer, that type of stuff. Those come out on Tuesdays, and you can follow me on Twitter and see my somewhat spicy or somewhat hot takes at the Vaughn 2712.
All right, and finally, Mitch, real quick, you are the OG on the show. People know who you are, but real quick, what do you do on the BuffaloFanatics.com?
Every Thursday, 1 o'clock, it's my Thursday thought column. I, just kind of put out what's in my mind. We'll see maybe how this game goes. Might maybe dip my toe into the tight end draft pool. As someone mentioned, Kyle Pitts. I don't know if he'll make it to Buffalo, but I'm hoping my my Nittany line, Pat Fryermuth, maybe sits around there on the Bills pick. So we'll see. But catch me at again, Thursday, 1 o'clock. That will come out, and feel free to follow me on Twitter. It's kind of right there on the bottom of the screen. So at Mitchell_broder. So follow would be appreciated. And yeah, that's all I got for me.
All right, guys, thanks so much for joining. We're about to move into some of the other great programming for the Buffalo Fanatics Tailgate. Great job producing today, Steve. Maybe tell the other guys to look nice. The fans like it. A little eye candy, right? These podcasters, they're used to no cameras. That's what I think is happening, right? No cameras, no mirrors in their house. That's my thought. I don't know. But all right, guys, thank you all for joining. Steve-O, are we ready to switch over to the next part of the series?
Lone Wolf, come back. Don't leave me. Come back. He said, I'm out. I don't do fantasy.
No. Come on. Come back, Lone Wolf.
Come on back. Me, Richard, don't leave me. Come on, Richard. We were friends. We've been through this together. Now, before we get started into our fantasy that a lot of people are dipping out on, they just don't know what they're missing. Before we get started, I took a picture of my brothers from the writer's room, right? And they're wearing ties. You know what I'm saying? They're wearing ties. They're wearing like nice dress shirts and stuff like that. And I just have a question. Okay. Should we dress up? Should we dress up?
I mean, we can, but I don't think we need to. What's the purpose of us dressing? No. What's the purpose of us dressing up?
I don't own dress shirts.
Okay, so then why are you even asking?
Like I don't, because they look so nice. You know what I'm saying?
You're trying to spend more money. That's what you're trying to do right now.
I hate spending money. Bow ties. All right, bet. Like bow ties. Hey, now does your family do Christmas list?
Used to.
So I'm a simple man. If I want it, I'll go and buy it. Like that's the type of guy I am, right?
That's usually what I do.
My in-laws are very Christmassy. Like everybody gets a gift. That's not how I am. It's like, you know, I'm going to buy you a gift because I see something that reminds me of you, and I'm going to go and do that, right? You get a gift regardless, right? But that's not the type of guy I am, and I respect their traditions. But this year, my brother-in-law, who still calls me that kid, by the way, in case you're wondering, he still calls me that kid. He is the guy picking for me. Like he's getting me a gift for Christmas, and we have to have an Amazon list, and he'll pick something from my Amazon list. I have no idea what to put on this Amazon list. Mm-hmm. Like I have no idea. So for those of you who are sticking around for fantasy takes, can you please in the comments tell me what I want on my Amazon wish list? Because right now I'm thinking bow ties because the Pullout King is telling me bow ties. I'm thinking about with bow ties on there.
It sounds like you need to throw some dress shirts on there if you don't own any, and you're trying to wear some on the show. You need a dress shirt, dude.
I own no dress shirts. Like I own like work dress shirts, but they don't count, right? Like I own a dress shirt. It's a flannel shirt, and it has the sleeves cut off. So I should wear that. I should wear that next Sunday.
We can do that. We can do that.
Next Sunday is my flannel, my cutoff. So that's what
all right. We can do that.
All right, let's get into it. Let's get into some fantasy. I feel upset because last week we had a bye week. We were off. I'm feeling under the weather. For those of you in the chat, if you see me mute my mic and start coughing, it's because I'm sick, right? And then we come back up, and Steve, our great producer from the Bills guys, the great hair, the Todd McShay wannabe, he put out a schedule of who all was doing, you know, what on the pregame show, right? And, you know, the writer's room, they get, you know, all these awesome guys. Jeff Clay Bott is coming up next. And then Jeff and the Bills guys are after that, which is really awesome. But I start looking at the schedule and I get stuck with Nap.
Whoa.
I get stuck with Nap.
Like you are lucky.
You are lucky. I get stuck with Nap, right? And everybody else gets like awesome, like Bot. Like I would love to host an hour with Bot, but I get Nap.
So I know why there's so much hate coming this way, and it's because you haven't beat me in any of our one-on-one bets in like a month now. So I get why there's hate coming at me. I get it.
There's no hate.
I'm not sorry.
There's no hate. I'm letting my feelings be known that I get stuck with Nap. I get stuck with Nap. I think jumping into fantasy, we need to talk about one game.
Okay.
We need to talk about one game.
Wait, before we jump into a game, I do have somebody from Twitter actually sent in a question. I told him we would get to it on the show, so I want to make sure we get to that first so that I don't forget it, because if we don't do it first, I will forget. So can we do that first, and then we'll jump into the game?
This is your show. I'm just here.
Oh, you're going to say that right now? Okay, whatever. All right. So it's from Mikey, and it's at LXVE from the SHXD. I don't know. Whatever.
Good job.
Yeah, I did my best there. So he said Robbie Anderson, Robert Woods, Justin Jefferson. You got to pick two for a PPR.
Robert Woods, JJ.
Yeah, I mean, that's who I'm going to go with, too. Robert Woods, I think you have to go with Robert Woods in that scenario, just automatically. He's so consistent.
Yes, he is.
You could pretty much do no wrong with him.
Correct.
And
he should be a must-starter.
Yeah, and then you have Robbie Anderson. Is P.J. Walker still a starter for them?
I don't know. I really don't. I've been really busy with work, so I've been off Twitter. I've been
and sick and
yeah. So
I hear excuses. I hear a lot of excuses.
Wow. Okay. So when you were sick, I didn't call you out. That's fine. Whatever.
But see, when I was sick.
No, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it.
Okay, yeah.
I'm sorry. You know, I have a pregnant wife at home who's also sick that I'm trying to tend to, but it's fine. Whatever.
Okay, well, I feel bad for her. I feel bad for her. But like I'm not giving you a pass.
All right. No, I don't know. But I will say this, that PJ did a really good job considering, you know, everything.
All things considering,
coming in. He did a good job. And I don't think Robbie Anderson's numbers hurt at all with PJ coming in. In fact, you could make the case that PJ should be the starter going forward. He has a little bit more potential than Teddy B. So I don't.
It looks like he is. It looks like he's going to backup. So Teddy Bridgewater's coming back.
I don't hate Robbie Anderson. Like, I think Robbie Anderson is good. But when you give me three players right there, when you got Justin Jefferson, who has also been very consistent considering Kirk Cousins, and Robert Woods, who's a must starter, right? Then at that point, I'm not taking Robbie Anderson. So if you can, though, if you don't have a flex, Robbie Anderson in flex is a good position.
Yeah, not a bad idea. All right, so now that we got that one in, I wanted to make sure we did that. Let's get to the game that you were talking about, because I actually have no clue which way you're going to go with this.
Well, I think before we jump to the Bills game, because there's a lot of fantasy potential around the Bills game.
Yes.
But before we get into that, I think we need to talk about the Denver and the Saints game, right? I think we do need to talk about that, because a lot of people are going to say, do I start this? Do I start that? I honestly think that a Denver running back is not a bad play to go, right? Obviously, they're going to key in on the run, but when you've got –
I think it's going to be tough.
When you've got two running backs right there and they're bouncing back and forth, I don't know. I mean, Philip Lindsay is very consistent. I wouldn't start Melvin Gordon, but Philip Lindsay is very consistent.
He is, but when you have a practice squad wide receiver starting at quarterback for you, like if I'm a defensive coordinator in that situation, I'm gonna just put my corners, each corner on an island. I don't care how bad my corners are. I'm putting them on an island against the wide receivers. Maybe you line up a linebacker against the tight end or a safety against the tight end. I'm not even leaving over the top help or anything like that.
No,
I'm just going to put 8 in the box every single time, and I'm going to blitz the hell out of them, and I'm going to make sure that they can't run the ball, because I don't care what they don't have a quarterback playing quarterback. Like,
for sure.
What are you supposed to do?
No, I get it. There's going to be – to win this game, you have to be creative. You have to have a lot of trick plays, right? You have to – if they're going to line up like that, which every sane person in the football world, that's how you should line up against a team who does not have a quarterback, right? Because you're going to be expecting to run. If they're going to do that, you have to find creative ways. As I'm saying, you have to find creative ways. Pat Shurmur doesn't have it in him. You have to find creative ways to get past that defense, right? So that's why I'm saying, if you have no one else, absolutely no one else, do not feel bad about starting, say, Philip Lindsay or Melvin Gordon. Now, outside of that, I'm not starting anybody else. Not starting any on Denver's side.
Yes, yeah. And I mean, this is good. Like, it just going right off of what you – I don't like Fournette very much, so I would go with Gordon.
Thank you.
I would go with Gordon.
Drop Fournette. It has nothing to do with the fact that I lost a ton of money on Fournette starting and Ronald
Casey's a liar. He's a liar.
I can't stand Fournette right now. Like, I liked him coming out of college. I liked him at Jacksonville. Since he's been at Tampa, bruh, right? Bruh. Like that's the only thing. Like, he is nothing. He's dead to me.
He's also not their feature back.
He's not. And this is what I don't understand about Tampa. And we're bouncing around from game to 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 game.
That's okay.
But what I don't like about Tampa is when they run the ball consistently with Jones, they win the game. When they decide that they want to put everything on Tom Brady's shoulders, right, and take the running game out of the picture, they lose the game. This has been consistent week after week after week. So I don't understand why they're not running the ball with Jones. Okay, so what if he's averaging, say, 3 yards per carry? You need them dirty runs. You need them, because at the end of the game, you're going to wear down these defenses. If they know you're going to be throwing the ball, guess what? They're just going to rush the passer, right? Ronald Jones is not a threat out of the backfield, right? He can't catch. He's not a threat out of the backfield. So to have him on third down, and apparently Fournette's not either, because he dropped 4 passes last game. So it kills me.
What I will say with the Fournette or Gordon thing is I think it does depend on what you're looking for. If you want to go with the guy who has that bigger play potential, if you want to be a little bit more risky with it, and it's partially because the Broncos have nobody at quarterback, so like they're going to key in on the run defense. But if you want to be a little bit more risky with it, Go with Gordon because Gordon has much more big play potential.
Yes, he does.
Fournette is probably going to be in that 7 to 10 point range, and that's just consistently. But Gordon could end up getting you into that high teens, maybe low 20s. So it depends on how risky you want to get with it.
For sure. Hines or Mostert?
Mostert? You struggling there?
I am, dude. I can't pronounce jack nothing.
I always love when you mess up names on the podcast. you're so bad with names. Like you know what you're talking about. But
dude, I'm so terrible with names. Like what was it? This last podcast, I forgot Matt Milano's name.
Yeah,
I know who he is, right? And I was like, M something. And then Manny comes to my rescue, and I was like, bruh, Bill's Mafia is gonna come at me for that one. But anyways, I'm gonna take Hines. I'm going Hines.
I don't know.
Why? I'm going Hines because
I think I might lean towards Mostert, and it's
Mostert.
You want to call him Mostert? If you want to call him Mostert, we can do that.
I don't care. Hines. I'm going Hines, and that's just because that he's a threat. He's a threat on third down. I think he's a threat on third down.
I get going there. Jonathan Taylor's out, and
Jonathan Taylor is out. He's on the COVID-19 list. So I'm going Hines with this because I honestly, and not only that, with Jonathan Taylor in, Hines was still a guy that Indy was going to a lot. Something that I didn't see, right? Because I was all on the Jonathan Taylor, bandwagon. But I'm going Hines on this one. I think you're very safe with Hines. I don't like San Francisco at all. I don't like most of their offensive players.
Here's the thing with San Francisco.
Talk to me.
When Mostert plays, he gets used a lot. He has a high usage rate. When he plays, they want to run the ball with him. He'll catch the ball out of the backfield. They use him in a bunch of different ways. He just hasn't played a ton this year because he's had some injuries.
Correct.
But now that he's back, if he's playing, I think you start him automatically just because of how much he gets used and how creative the Shanahan offense is in terms of running the ball. Like, it doesn't matter who's back there. They're going to be productive. And we've already seen over the past season and a half at this point, Mostert is one of their more productive backs. I can't deal with you, man.
My wife.
Can I get a new co?
My wife just texted me, right? And she said, "What are you doing?" Right? This is week 12. If you guys wondering, this is week 12, right? And I've been doing this every Sunday. She said, "What are you doing?" I'm on YouTube, sweetheart.
I hope she asks you what you're watching.
She said, Lance coming in strong. I love Lance. Lance is up in here every single week. He's a loyal listener, and he's coming in strong. He said, one flex spot. You only get one, all right? Jay Myers from New England, all right? Mims from New Jersey. Singletary from Buffalo. Moss from Buffalo. Chenault from Jacksonville. And Harris from New England.
I want to lean towards Moss. You know what? I'm going to do it because here's why. And it's because Moss is getting the BF bump. It's happening. I put it out on Twitter. If you didn't see it, if you didn't catch it, he was on with Rico Friday. He was on the Rico Report Friday. He's getting the BF bump this week. He's having a big day. So I'm going to roll with Moss.
You know what, Lance? I'm gonna take loyalty out of this. I'm gonna take being a Bills fan out of this.
Harris is my other pick, by the way. Without being a Bills fan, Harris is my pick.
I actually like Myers. I do like Myers.
Really?
I do like Myers.
Even with Cam throwing him the ball.
Yeah, I like Myers. I like Myers going against that Arizona defense, right? I like him.
See that, and that's why I like Harris. Because
you like Harris?
Because Arizona's run defense is not as good as their pass defense, and they're relatively average at both. But if you have if statistics,
we got a freeze. Was it me freeze or Nat freeze? 9 times out of 10, it's Nat freeze. Oh, it's a Nat freeze. It's a Nat freeze. All right. Well, I want to talk about the Buffalo game. With Nat being out, I want to talk about the Buffalo game real quick. So the Bills are playing the Chargers, right? So we have a ton of fantasy highlights for the Bills game, right? I think one of the most notable ones is John Brown being out. I want to know if I'm still on air. Am I still on air? There's Nap. Nap, I transitioned to the Buffalo game. I think one of the most notable fantasy things that we need to talk about is John Brown being out and who's going to benefit a lot from that, right? And
can I take a guess at who you're going to say?
Sure, why not?
Are you going to say Gabriel Davis?
I was not. I was actually not going to say Gabriel Davis.
Okay.
I think the one person who's going to benefit the most, really, especially against this D, and I said it on my podcast, which, humble plug, you can find my podcast every Saturday, and that's Buff City. You can find it on Apple, Spotify, whatever. You can actually find Nap's podcast the day before mine on Fridays on Apple, Spotify, Twitter. I don't know. Like anywhere you can find podcasts, you can find us out there. But
I like that. I'm sorry. I like that. R.I.P. Nate.
R.I.P.
Did you see that last night?
No.
Oh my. All right. If you haven't seen it, look up Jake Paul, Nate Robinson on Twitter. Nate Robinson, done.
I went to bed at like 8 last night.
It's a tough look. It's a tough look.
So anyways, I think the one person who's going to benefit the most is going to be Cole Beasley. And I think it's because I just forgot his name. The defensive coordinator for the Chargers came over from Jacksonville. He was the head coach there. Gus Bradley. Gus Bradley plays a lot of cover 3 zone. And Cole Beasley is the master of finding the soft spot in the zone, right? And catching the ball and going for a third down or getting a third down completion, whatever it might be. He's the master of finding the soft spot in the zone. And I honestly think that if you have Cole Beasley, he's a starter this week. I think he's honestly a starter this week, the way he's going to play around with the Chargers defense.
I don't see why he wouldn't be a starter every single week, even if you're just playing. If you have Cole Beasley on your team, like at the very least, you play him in the flex this year. He's on pace for a 1,000-yard receiving season,
which
that's
is
starter worthy.
Yeah, I mean that's
starter worthy. Yeah,
it's wild. My desk is shaking because an earthquake is happening because Cole Beasley is being just outstanding this year. He's honestly going to have one of the best games this week. He's going to have a better game than Stephon Diggs. I'll say it. Like I honestly think
I think that's a reasonable take, but a lot of people look at that as a hot take probably because it's Diggs' birthday. And everybody's expecting him to have a crazy day.
I should probably, when I'm sick, I should probably quit like moaning and groaning, laying in bed and taking cough medicine. I should probably get on Twitter a little bit more because I had no idea it was Diggs' birthday. My man's going off. My man's catching a touchdown. Like Josh Allen is going to feed him the ball so he gets a touchdown on his birthday. Like, why would you not?
I think it's going to, they're going to try to.
Yeah, 100%. Like, that's something else. But no, I think Cole Beasley does have a better game than Stephon Diggs because of the zone concept and the fact that he's the mastermind of finding zones in there. So if you have Cole Beasley, I think you should start him. That's who I want to say. Now, on the Chargers end, there's one person I want to talk about on the Chargers team that I don't think gets a lot of love, mostly because he was so promising coming out of college, right? And then he gets injured, right? And he's kind of been an afterthought, right? And it's not Mike Williams. It's actually Hunter Henry. Okay,
you could use that to describe either
one.
Like they both fit that exact storyline.
Correct. But I think it's Hunter Henry. It's only because Matt Milano is still on IR. The Bills give up a ton of yards to tight ends, and I think Hunter Henry's going to feast this week. I honestly do. I think he gets over 50 yards, and I think he catches the touchdown. I think he's going to find that little spot and catch a touchdown. So if you're looking for a tight end to start and you have Hunter Henry, I would not be shy to start him. And of course, Mike Williams is not a bad bet to start.
Yeah, and that's where I was going to go next.
Yeah.
We can pull up Chris's comment. He says, "Do I start Mike Williams or Zach Moss at flex?" I would roll with Williams because even though, like I said, Zach Moss is getting the BF bump, it's going to happen. I'm trusting that, but Mike Williams he's been consistently putting up points the last couple of weeks. He's been on kind of a roll, and Herbert, they've had a connection.
Yeah,
and it's a connection it feels like it's been growing and kind of snowballing into something bigger.
For sure.
And I know Herbert's main goal is I want to get the ball to Keenan Allen. Everybody knows that.
Yep.
It doesn't matter if you're watching the game on TV, if you're the defensive coordinator, if you're just a random person walking the street. If you know anything about the Chargers, Justin Herbert wants to get the ball to Keenan Allen. But he's been throwing the ball to Mike Williams a little bit more. And Mike Williams is probably going to be going up against our CB2, whoever lines up as CB2 more often than not, because Trey White doesn't shadow very much, but
Correct.
more often than not, he's probably going to be lining up against the CB2, giving him that advantage. And he has a lot of big play possibility.
And I mentioned that before. I think that it'll be rotating the safeties over there to the cornerback 2 position to make sure Mike Williams doesn't get a long bomb on them, because that can happen. Mike Williams can bust out and get a 40-yarder, because the fact that he's like 7'5" and his vertical is like 10 feet is outrageous.
He's an athletic freak. Also, Lance, it's not a cup of vodka.
It is a cup of vodka. You ever play the Nintendo 64 Madden? Like, it was like Madden 2000.
Like way old school, yeah. 64 was my first console.
For sure. You remember the cheats on that thing, right? You got like frog legs. I don't know if any of y'all. That's Mike Williams. Like, Mike Williams consistently has that cheat on, frog legs. For those of you wondering, it basically meant that you could jump out of the stadium with this cheat on. You could jump like you were Superman jumping around, right? So Mike Williams has frog legs on consistently. So they're going to rotate the safeties over there and make sure that, hey, we're not getting a long bomb, because it could potentially happen, which is another reason why you're starting Mike Williams in your fantasy today.
Can we pull, if Steve's still back there, can we pull up Abel? No? All right. Well, Abel Austin said PPR flex, Moss, Fulgham, or Fournette. I'm rolling with Fulgham here. 100% of the time, I'm rolling with Fulgham.
I've rolled with him, and I'm rolling with him too, but I just want to point out, I've rolled with him like 2 weeks back to back, and it's hurt my heart.
But here's why, and it's because he's had those tough weeks the last it's been 1 or 2 weeks, but he had a string of games where he was great. Yep. And it didn't matter what defense he was going against, he was great. And this week he's going up against the worst defense in the NFL, historically the worst passing defense ever. So, and this is also against the Seahawks offense is going to put up points. So if the Eagles are playing from behind and they're playing against a bad defense, he's going to have plenty of opportunities to get points, whether it's, especially since it's PPR, like even if he only ends up with 5 catches for 50 yards, you're still okay with that in your flex. And I think you're more likely to get that double-digit point from Fulgham than you are from Moss.
100%. I had a buddy just text me, and he said 0 chance Broncos cover, right? I'm feeling like a 31-9 game.
Like, look, if they get 9, I'd be impressed. Ooh. Like, really, I would be.
You know who the last running back to pass for 2 touchdowns against the Saints was?
No, I don't.
For those of you in the chat, if you can figure out who the last running back to throw for 2 touchdown passes against the Saints, I don't know what I'll do, but I'll do something. I'll let that marinate. It can happen. It's happened before. But
I think you might have to give out like a free bet, like
a free bet.
Yeah, like
Giants money line.
No, like, hey, hit up the Venmo.
Hit up the Venmo. I'm not hitting
up the Venmo. Free bet.
I'm not hitting up anybody's Venmo. I'm so broke. I've been betting on freaking Philly the last 2 weeks. All right. Oh,
okay. Wait, hold on. You've been betting on Philly.
I don't want to talk about it.
And you're a gambling guy.
Hey. Let's talk about bets giving real quick. Can we talk about bets giving? I had a bet out there, and I was sick to my stomach. I Marvin Jones Jr. did not catch the pass. Right. I was gonna win was it 250? I think was what I was gonna win.
Yeah, I think it was mid 200s. Yeah.
And all I needed was Marvin Jones to catch one pass for 8 yards, and I would have won 250. Which I do want to point out this, like, it was not a bad bet. Like, I had a couple people be like, "This is a bad bet. Why would you do that?" It's like, it's not a bad bet. Dude was targeted 15 times. He only caught 5 passes. Like, how is that my fault, right? That's not a bad bet.
I mean, it's technically never your fault because you're not the one playing.
Well, you just pointed out I'm the gambling guy, so.
No, but you're not the one playing.
Yeah, I mean.
You didn't make them not hit those numbers.
It wasn't a bad bet is what I'm saying. It's still picking me up. But, yeah. I think there's a couple other games that we need to talk about, such as the Ravens and Steelers game. There's a couple players that are out for fantasy that I think we need
hammer
to
the
touch on.
Steelers. If you're betting that game, hammer the Steelers.
I don't know, man. RG3 is going to come back, and he's going to give the Steelers their first loss. It's going to come back like it's 2013, throwing dimes.
Okay.
Throwing dimes.
Yeah, and Cam Newton was going to be the MVP this year.
Oh, he's going to. He's still got time. He's still got time. But no, I think we do need to talk about that. Oh my goodness, here we go. James Conner. Is it James Conner?
James Conner?
James Conner is on the COVID list. So if you're looking for a running back, you definitely need to go and make sure that you have him, or you need to make sure that he's not starting.
You have pick up his backup because running backs produce.
Benny Snell is his backup, and he does produce. He's very consistent. He gives you about 50 yards a game. He'll sneak in 2-3. I'm sorry, not 2 or 3, but 1 or 2 touchdowns a game. He honestly can't do that. So I'm not hating on Benny Snell. I like him. But I think we need to focus on the Ravens side of things, right? With RG3 starting, are you going with any like Mark Andrews? Are we still going with Mark Andrews? Is that going to be
I've hung with this take all year. I would not play anybody on my fantasy team from the Ravens if they're not Lamar Jackson or a running back. That's it. I don't care about their wide receivers. He doesn't throw to them often enough, and he can't really because they're outside the numbers, and he struggles with that.
What? Not Lamar Jackson?
I know. Not him. Not the MVP. No. No. Yeah. No. Okay. So I wouldn't use any of their wide receivers. Never. Wouldn't do it. Wouldn't even draft them. I don't care.
James, I'm going to butcher your last name, so please don't get mad at me. But James S. I'm just going to go with James S. James S. coming in, clutch in the chat, saying Mark Andrews has COVID. So at this point, what's up? What's going on with what?
They have 18 players, I think, right now.
They do. They do have 18 players, but yet the Denver Broncos are still going to play because they don't have a quarterback. So I mean, that's just showing favoritism from the NFL.
Yeah, I mean, we don't have to get into that too much. The NFL has their priorities, and it's the playoff team, but it's whatever.
Hit me up on Twitter if you want to hear a rant. But Mark Andrews does have COVID, so that's kind of like, you're expecting RG3 or Trace McSorley, which, by the way, he's the GOAT. I love him. I love Trace. In fact, they should put Trace in over RG3.
Play a 2-quarterback system.
No, I love Trace.
Yes, line them both up back there. Has no fantasy value whatsoever, but that would be good football to watch. Maybe not good football, but exciting.
You say it has no fantasy value, but what about the guys who are in the leagues where you can start a quarterback in the flex? Trace has COVID too? What is going on in Baltimore?
I didn't know that. I did not know that.
So who's the backup, right? They have the wide receiver from.
I mean, they're almost in a Denver situation.
There's a quarterback from Navy that was on their team, who they switched over to wide receiver. Maybe he's their backup, but you got RG3. RG3 is going to come in clutch, man. I'm telling you, it's 2013. He's going to conjure up that Baylor statue, and he's going to come to life.
I'm trying to figure out who is their other guy. I thought Tyler Huntley from Utah, I think they had him on their practice squad, so maybe he's available. I don't even know. Either way, nobody from the Ravens has fantasy value unless you're Gus Edwards. That's it. Unless your name is Gus Edwards and you're on the Ravens, you have no fantasy value for that team. None whatsoever this week.
I do want to talk about Cam and the Arizona game. I honestly do want to talk about this game because I had a buddy. For those of you who don't know, my name is Cash Out BF, and we talk gambling constantly. And I'm in a big degenerate group chat. And I had a buddy who is betting on Arizona covering -2, right? But he's worried about Cam actually doing some stuff against Arizona.
Why?
Well, here's the thing, right? You're playing an Arizona defense that's not great. They're good.
Okay,
they're average.
He's played against other defenses this year that are not good. They're average, and he hasn't passed the ball against them.
You're coming at me, but I'm trying to make an argument's sake. For argument's sake, right? Are you starting Cam against this Arizona defense?
Do you want my honest answer or for argument's sake? Because they're both still no.
I mean, that's fine. Just talk to me about it because I am curious because you do have, for argument's sake, you do have Cam's ability to run the ball.
You know what?
But you also do have his ability to throw the ball as well.
I just changed my mind, actually. I did.
So
I just changed my – so – and I think that you are right about that is that it is – I think you get more of his value running the ball against a defense that is as weak as the Cardinals are because, like, they really aren't a great defense. They let up a lot of yards generally, and
Correct.
Cam is not an easy guy to bring down in the pocket, even if he hasn't played great this year. He's the type of guy who can get you, I don't know, maybe he gets 2 rushing touchdowns, and that's where he brings his value.
Correct.
So I wouldn't start him if you have another guy who's starter worthy, but if you have a guy who maybe he's injured or I think this is the last week that there's bye weeks, right? Or is that last week?
Week 13.
Okay, 13. So then if you have a guy who's on a bye week, maybe you can stick Cam in there. But, like, if you have another guy who's starter worthy, I wouldn't do it. But he could have some value this week. Yeah.
And the reason why I bring this up is because a buddy of mine is in a fantasy league with his wife and his wife's boss and stuff like that. Which, by the way, dangerous to be in a fantasy league with your wife because I talk mad trash, right? And imagine facing your wife in a week-to-week, head-to-head. I'd be talking trash, right, all day long, right? And then it carries over into the household, and you're sleeping on the couch, and you're not being able to play Xbox. But anyways, that's neither here nor there. But he had texted me a few weeks back, and he had hit me up, and he had said Daniel Jones or the other Allen that plays for the Washington football team. And it got me thinking, if you have Cam out there as a free agent and Daniel Jones is your starter, right? Who has better fantasy value? You're in a deep league like that. He's in like an 18, like it's a deep league. You know what I'm saying? So he's having to scratch the bottom surface. With Cam going against Arizona and Daniel Jones going against Cincinnati, who has better fantasy value in your eyes? And that's what I'm trying to.
Jones.
Daniel Jones.
I like
right?
Daniel Jones in that scenario. Yeah, Daniel Jones, he's as much as he is turnover prone, because like he loves fumbling the ball and he loves throwing picks. Absolutely loves it. That's one of his favorite things to do on the football field. He still gets yards. He can run the ball. Like we've seen, he's got some wheels.
Yeah.
He's got some wheels.
Yeah.
So he can move. So he has that same type of value that Cam has, except for he has even more value passing the ball.
Yeah, and I can see that. I can see that. But because the way I pick people, right? The way I pick people is based on their matchups. You like a Daniel Jones quarterback going against Cincinnati matchup rather than a Cam Newton going up against an Arizona matchup. Because honestly, Cincinnati's defense is a little bit worse than Arizona's. I'm not trying to trash Arizona. They just have an average defense right now.
They do, yeah.
But Cincinnati has a worse defense, but still with the Cam Newton, I think Cam Newton is a little bit better quarterback than Daniel Jones at this point, just because of, I said it. Look around. I like Cam Newton as a better quarterback than Daniel Jones as of right now. I think Daniel Jones has more potential than Cam Newton, but as of right now, I like Cam Newton.
No, hard disagree.
I think Cam Newton can put up 2 rushing touchdowns and a passing touchdown against this Arizona defense.
I don't know who put it in here earlier. Let me scroll back and find it. But Cam Newton, he's on pace for like 4 or 5 passing touchdowns this year.
That's fine.
That's it.
I think he puts up 1 passing touchdown. That's fine. I think he puts up one of those 4 or 5 passing touchdowns.
You can't bet on him to get a passing touchdown right now.
I would. I'd take those odds.
That's just another bet you're going to lose, man. That's just another bet you're going to lose.
Hey, I want to go to John Rach's comment. He said more fantasy points today, Singletary or Moss. This is a good question, right? And this is a question, not necessarily fantasy, that has been plaguing the BF group chat on Twitter. And it's who should you use more in the passing game, Moss or Singletary, right? And I think as of right now, they're leaning towards Singletary, where a lot of people want to see Moss in that passing attack. But I think Singletary brings you a little bit more value. So if you're going PPR, I'm taking Singletary. And see, I told you guys that has been plaguing the BF group chat. Here comes Nap.
Okay, so here's where I'm not sold either way. This is just giving a counter argument. I love Singletary in the screen game. We've talked about this on the show before. We've talked about it just in general, like in text. Like we've talked about how much like I do like Singletary in the screen game. In terms of like Moss in the screen game, he used to be a wide receiver.
Okay.
So he can get involved in the passing game still. They could, I mean, he's obviously like neither of them are going to outrun guys. That's just not going to happen. But if you get either of them involved in the screen game, they both have similar abilities where they can make a guy miss. Moss is probably more likely to run through somebody than Singletary is. Singletary is more likely to, make a juke move and get out of the way. But like, they both have similar abilities where if you get them in space, they can make plays in the screen game. So I think it comes down to who do you think is just going to get more touches. I don't think it matters like who's going to be more involved in the screen game, who's going to be more involved in the running game, because if they both get similar touches, they're probably going to have similar output.
Jeremy, let's put Jeremy's comment real quick up here. Let's put Jeremy's comment. Jeremy Rogers saying, after having lived there for 4 years myself, I think that cash out is from Arkansas. All right. I'm not from Arkansas. I'm from Tennessee. All right. Arkansas is the land of the meth, right? That is where people just go to do meth. Down here in Tennessee, we do heroin. Okay, so get it correct. All right.
So
Jeremy.
is that a compliment or is that a diss at this point?
You take it as you want. You take it as you want. But yeah, Jeremy, I thought that was funny. No, I'm not from Arkansas. I'm from Tennessee. But you're right. I am from the South. I've lost all train of thought with that one.
Let's pull this back into the Moss or Singletary then. Yeah, correct. For that one. If you have to pick one of them for fantasy right now, because
I'm taking Singletary. I'm taking Singletary over Moss.
That's fair. Would you agree that it just comes down to who gets more touches?
Yes. Here's the thing. Like Moss has more potential, I think, honestly, than Singletary to be that all-around Bill Cal, and then Singletary to come in and be the lightning to the thunder. But I like Singletary right now. And you can't make the argument that there was no, camp. There was no camp or anything like that, and Moss is still learning the ropes because we're on week 12, right? So you can't make that argument. I think there's just a rookie curve right now for Moss, and he's starting to be utilized in the offense a little bit more, and that's fine and dandy. I just like Singletary. I like Singletary a little bit more right now in fantasy. They're still not my running back one. They're still not my running back two. They're in my flex.
Yeah, I know. I was going to say most weeks, I would even be hard-pressed to put him in my flex at the moment. Just the way – because we've seen, like, the Bills running backs, just the production's not there this year. And it's not something where we can say, like, you do this and it changes. All of a sudden they're producing like crazy. That's just the way this offense is working right now. Like the Bills' offense is not going through the running backs.
No, it's not.
So if you're relying on them as like the main guy, you might be you're probably in a tough spot.
Stock the ground 23. Throw that comment up there. I like Motor, but Moss will get more goal line snaps though. That's correct. But you know who's going to score those goal line touchdowns? Josh Allen.
It's pretty.
Josh Allen
split this year on who's getting those carries though. Like,
yeah, Josh Allen's going to score. Like, it's not going to be the running back. It's going to be Josh Allen coming in with a quarterback sneak or a design quarterback run, following Feliciano around the end. Like that's what it is. It's going to be Josh Allen getting those touches. So
I'm going to roll with stock the ground. Also, I would lean towards Moss because I think he gets more touches, just in general.
That's fine. That's cool.
Is there a guy in this Bills Chargers game that you would stay away from completely fantasy wise? And I'm not talking like Dawson Knox, because
that was the first.
Stay away from him. Is there a guy who is one of the more well-known players that you would stay away from?
Yeah, Balaj. Yeah, is it Balaj, the running back? Balaj. No. Eckler. Yeah, sure. Eckler's in there.
Eckler is actually the guy that I'm going to pick for this.
No. But the running back is the guy from Miami that has been tossed around. It's
Kalen
Balaj.
Kalen Balaj.
Yeah, Kalen Balazs. Like, I'm staying away from him. Like, they have been utilizing him, and I get Austin Eckler is back, but they have been utilizing him a ton. He was their featured running back, and you've got to think that they're going to continue to give him touches, right? But at this point, his hot streak has ran out. If you have him on your team, I'm thinking you drop him. You should have traded him last week, knowing that Austin Eckler was going to come back. But he got about 15 to 17 touches last week on average, and he gets hotter as the game goes on. So they're going to try to utilize him at the end of the game if they have a lead. But I'm still staying away from him. He's going to get the goal line touches, not Austin Eckler. I'm still going to stay away from him, though. I don't like him.
So the reason that I'm saying Eckler is literally just because I don't like guys coming back from injury.
I don't either.
That scares me. And we're gonna turn on this game and I'm just gonna be dead wrong the entire time. Like, it's gonna be the Austin Eckler show for them. But it always makes me nervous to roll with a guy who's coming back from injury, especially when, like, all the way leading up to, like, yesterday, we didn't even know if he was gonna play. There was the potential that he was gonna play, but there was also, like, is he actually healthy enough? Is he good to go where we can trust it? Then that always worries me. So it's kind of like a system, I guess, that I have where in my mind I'm like, if got a guy coming back from injury, not really sure if they're fully healthy, maybe shy away from them.
We haven't talked gambling much on this podcast today.
No, we have not. Let's finish up with you want to run through the lines, or you want to?
Nah, I don't want to run through the lines. I do want to talk about a couple of games that I think are going to win. And I think that's the Giants' money line against Cincinnati.
Your best bets?
My best bets. I think that's the Giants' money line. Going through that for sure. If you want to take the spread on that, you can as well. But my must bets, if you're listening out there and you like to gamble and you are degenerate, we're going to talk about my must bets this week. And I honestly want to start that with the Giants' money line. Man, I can't talk more about how it's money.
You're gonna bet money. Why would you bet money line?
Why would you?
Are those favorable? Because they're favored.
Will you shut up? Thank you.
I mean, it's a legitimate question.
Will you
is it not a legitimate question?
I mean, it is, sure, but I like the money line on this one. I mean, minus 6, sure.
You just don't like winning much money.
Here's the thing with that. I can't even get through. I want Jeff Landers. We haven't met yet, but Jeff, my name is Casey, and I talk gambling, and I've got a crap of a co-host. The reason why I'm taking the money line on this is because Cincinnati is a little scrappy. No matter who the quarterback is, and I say that with a pause button, right? I get that. But this Cincinnati team is scrappy, right? So when I see that, the way they've been doing it all year long, the way they've been covering all year long, it makes me fear for my life when I go against the spread. Also, the Giants like to get ahead in games, and they like to let their opponents come back. So I could honestly see this being a 3-point game, right? That's why I want to take the Giants money line. I'm not that confident in the Cincinnati Bengals to take them +6. And I'm not that confident in the Giants at -6 either. There's a reason why I'm taking the money line. Now, of course, you are correct, Nap. If you want to win a little bit more money, the odds are a little bit better if you take the spread rather than the money line. But that's why I'm taking the Giants money line because of that. But not only that, I do want to go down and say Las Vegas.
Real quick question.
Yeah.
If you're doing that, are you throwing that in a parlay, or are you just betting that straight up? Okay, so that's very different.
It's going into a parlay.
All right, so that's where my reaction came in, because if you're just deciding to just straight up, you're just going to bet the money line and that's it, then my reaction was very reasonable. You didn't mention that you were throwing it in a parlay also, so that that changes it. I get it.
So my must bets are always going to be in a parlay because they're must bets. They're going to hit, right? So they're always going to be in a parlay. So that's going to be the Giants money line. That's going to go down to Las Vegas -3 against Atlanta. I like Las Vegas, right? So -3 against them, and then it's a pick'em game with Arizona. I like Arizona -1. Right, those are going to be my must bets, and I also, if you want to throw this in there, I also like the Buffalo Bills money line as well, and it's going to be the same reason that I'm taking the Giants money line rather than I'm taking the spread on that one, is because the Chargers are scrappy. Justin Herbert is the truth. I understand that. He is the absolute truth. So I'm taking the money line on that. Bills are going to win. 100% they're going to win, but that spread, I'm not taking the spread. So to recap, that's Giants money line. That's Las Vegas -3. That's Arizona -1. and that's the Bills money line. So that's my 14 parlay. That's 100% going to hit this week.
All right, so I actually have questions about 2 games. I want your opinion on two separate games.
Let's do it.
They're both divisional games.
Yep.
First one is Miami against the Jets.
Mm-hmm.
When I put mine in, it was +7. I had the Jets at +7.
It's still +7.
It is still +7. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I think that the Jets cover.
Yeah, that's fair.
Where are you at with that? Because the Jets have been weird recently.
Yeah, they have.
They're not good, but they've been putting together enough of like a semblance of a game that actually looks like football, where they have covered a couple of times the last couple of weeks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they have. They've covered the last couple of weeks. This is a game that I actually want to stay away from.
Pullout King says the Jets get their first win.
Yeah, he does say that. Yeah, of course. But we just don't like Miami. So now this is a game. This is a game that I'm staying away from because it could go either way, especially on the spread. The Jets have covered a couple of weeks. I don't hate the +7, but at the same time, the Dolphins have a really good defense. So you're playing is Joe Flacco starting?
I think I saw Darnold might be playing.
If Darnold comes back,
let me double check that.
If Darnold comes back, then I don't hate the +7 as much, but this is a game I'm staying away from. And honestly, I would tell all gamblers stay away from this game because I could see Miami doing a big blowout. I could see the Jets winning. I could see the Jets losing by 3. I'm just not happening. How about those Bills? Ask who will be the quarterback for Denver, and that's going to be the strength and conditioning coach. So,
no,
they tried. They contacted.
They did. You know what? I loved that.
I love that move. Hey, let a coach play.
Yeah. Hold on. Let me look this back up. I thought that was a great move for them to be like, let's just have some coaches play in this game.
Just
that would have been absolutely
I love that move. I love that move, right? It's we do it in hockey, right? We let the emergency backup for both teams can be a coach. It can be a beer league guy. You do it in hockey. Let us have fun, NFL. No fun league. But that's a game that I'm staying away from is the Miami and the Jets. So, yeah.
Real quick to answer that question, it's Kendall Hinton. He's the practice squad wide receiver. He's starting at quarterback.
Here's the thing, guys. He might come out and be the next John Elway.
He was a quarterback in college.
I'm just saying.
So it's not like he's never played the position before. He's just never played in the NFL, which is very different.
Yeah, it is very different. Now, we're running out of time. We got about 9 minutes left. I do want to put this out there one more time. Who was the last running back to throw for 2 touchdowns against the Saints? The last last running back to throw for 2 touchdowns against the Saints. Go ahead, chat. Hit me up. Let me know who it is. You don't win anything. You just win a cool, crisp high five.
Congratulations.
Congratulations. It was on Twitter, right? The NFL tweeted it out, so it's not like I'm just pulling this out.
Did you say they tweeted it out?
They tweeted it out.
Are you saying tweet or twit?
They tweeted it out.
I can't tell.
They tweeted it out. Bruh, Josh Clark says Lamar Jackson. Let's go. Man,
I do have the answer.
You got the answer
because I looked it up, so I'm gonna wait. We'll drop it at the end of the show.
All right. Okay.
Actually, I think we got somebody who put it in already.
Yeah, they put it in.
We already put it in the chat. Yeah.
Go ahead and put up PTJ515 said sweetness, and that's right. It was Walter Payton. Walter Payton threw for 2 touchdowns against the Saints. So yeah, they tweeted it out. So it is what it is. Man, he's Southern. Leave him be. Thank you. I appreciate that, Marshall, against the Rams. I still like the Lamar Jackson one. That was the best one. You get a crisp 5-5 too. What's up? All right. Man, anybody got any fantasy advice?
Who's the guy on your roster? We'll go our individual rosters. Who's the guy on your roster this week that you think is going to have the biggest week outside of the quarterback? Because like the quarterback usually has the biggest potential. So like I always like to just keep the quarterback out of these conversations.
Okay.
On your roster, who's the guy who has the biggest week?
So I just want everybody to know that I've been ignoring one of my leagues in fantasy, like absolutely ignoring it, like forgetting to do it. Right?
What's going on with the leagues that you're not ignoring?
No, I want to talk about the league I am ignoring. I want to look at this one because I pulled it up and I looked at my starter. I didn't even know who my starters were. And I looked at my starter, and I've got Zeke Elliott as one of my as my starter, which sounds good. And so you look at how many points he produced on Thursday, which was 2. And I've also got Jonathan Taylor starting. He's out. I'm gonna leave it be, man. I like it. I like messing with trash. I've got Cooper Kupp or Stephon Diggs. I've got either one of them.
Okay.
But I think I'm going to go with Cooper Kupp. He's playing in San Francisco. I think, hey, I get it.
You're going to go against Diggs on his birthday?
Yep. Oh. You know why? You know why? Because Stephon Diggs watches this show. He watches
That's true. Show. That's how he gets ready for his game. Yeah,
he watches this show.
Heard that.
And he just heard me say, it's your birthday. Cool. Go and do something about it, right? And that gets him pumped, right? In fact, his cleats will actually have my face on it, right? With a big 0 and like a little line through it right there, and people are putting whack in there. I like Cooper Kupp this week. I honestly do. I've said it before. I think Cole Beasley has a better game than Stephon Diggs this week, even though it's Stephon Diggs' birthday. I like Cole Beasley more than Stephon Diggs this week, but I'm going Cooper Kupp. When I'm looking at my roster, I like Cooper Kupp this week.
That's fair. I'm rolling with DK Metcalf on my roster. That's who I'm going with. Let's pull up Cotter Moore. Which fantasy QB should I start, Derek Carr or Ben Roethlisberger? Derek Carr.
Yeah. He's playing outstanding.
He is.
He's playing
great
outstanding.
This year. And even though like the Ravens have a lot of COVID issues, it's still the Ravens.
Yeah, I mean,
it's still the Ravens' defense.
They're good defense.
Yeah.
They're really good defense. But I'm going Derek Carr. He's outstanding. Yeah, somebody just said Diggs putting up 50, dummy. Okay, he can put up 50, but Cole Beasley's going to put up 102 scores. Like,
I think he means 50 points.
No, he's not putting up a 50 burger.
Points.
He's not putting up
a 50 burger for his birthday.
He's not putting up a 50 burger. He's not doing it. I'm sorry. He's not doing it. Guys, look, Cole Beasley's having a better day today than Stephon Diggs.
I'm not disagreeing with you. I actually think that fits with
I think
the game plan and everything. It should at least. We'll see if Josh Allen wants to actually take the underneath and just take what's easy. But as long as he's willing to do that consistently, Cole Beasley should have himself a day.
Yeah.
Yeah, see, 50 fantasy points.
Your boy
CJ,
I'm remembering your name. And when he doesn't do that, I'm tweeting about you. No, I hope he does. I hope Cole Beasley does, and I hope we win. I hope we go. I hope we do something good today, right? And I think we will. We're going to do something good today, but I hope that happens. Diggs, Beasley, Brown, Davis, pick your poison.
Beasley. This week, Beasley.
Beasley.
And I've been pounding the table every single week for Beasley to be even more involved in the offense. You're going to just roll with Davis?
No.
I think Davis is like he has the potential to have a good day this week. Not like a crazy 150-yard day, but like I wouldn't be surprised if he had 70 yards and a touchdown. That wouldn't surprise me whatsoever for Davis just because he's put into that. Like he's going to have more output. He's going to have more looks. He's going to have more targets. Mm-hmm. And they don't have Casey Hayward, which changes who's going to be guarding Davis most of the time too. It's going to be interesting.
You know what I just thought, right? We're hyping this up. I took the over on Justin Herbert's passing yards and Josh Allen's passing yards. I took the over on that. But I'm sitting here thinking, like, dude, what if this turns into a ground and pound game? It's like 7-14.
I mean, it won't be that.
I would be so mad, dude. That's my luck, though.
Neither of these teams have the running backs to make it a full ground and pound game. For the full game like that, that's not what these teams do. Both teams want to air it out.
Elliot, dude, what's going on, man? You ain't been in the chat all day long. You just showing up in the end?
Oh no, Elliot!
I know.
Sorry.
I had to sit Alan last week and picked up Matty Stafford. By the way, it's Matthew Stafford. Don't let him hear you calling him Matty. He'll get angry.
You would not be.
He'd get angry. Forgot to switch him back on Bet's giving, and now I'm stuck with Stafford shit for
That's tough.
Elliot, dude. T's and P's to you. T's and P's to you.
All right, well, let's end it on a high note instead of that one because we are just about out of time. Because I'm sorry, Elliot. I'm sorry. Happy birthday to Stephon Diggs. What is your score prediction for today?
34-27.
I got 37-27 Bills. Yep.
Oh, stay out of my mind. Stay out of my head.
What do you mean? I'm just going right back to what I put out on my podcast.
You see this, guys? He asked me what my score prediction was. I say it, and he was like, "Oh snap, that's the same one." You
can check the timestamps on the podcast. I ran with the same score prediction I put out on the podcast. Check the timestamps. Mine's out.
Yo, real quick. Charles Mazak is at MGM in Biloxi, Mississippi. Which, by the way, been to that casino.
Ooh.
Awesome. And he has an inquiry. How many total punts in the game? I'm at MGM in Biloxi, Mississippi.
Do they have?
Is it over under it?
I was gonna say, do they have an over under that we could roll with real quick to give you over or under?
But honestly, Charles, I'm going 3 or 4.
I think that's probably a fair range.
I think
somewhere between 3 and 5. But I would assume that the over under on punts for this game is probably like 4.5 or 5.5.
And if it gives you a 5.5 for the over under, you take the under because I really believe this is going to be a shootout. But if you want my honest opinion, I'm going 3 or 4. But shout out to you being at the casino, pulling up the tailgate game. I appreciate that. That's awesome. That's what's up.
I like that. Yeah, if you can get if they have it anything 5.5 or under, take it. Take the under on that.
3.5 is the over under. Ooh, over. Do the over, Charles. Win some money for us.
Take the over.
Take the over. Shout out to you, Charles. I appreciate you.
I like that. That's a great way to end it.
You're in my backyard. You're in my backyard, so I appreciate that. Take the over. Other than that, guys, I appreciate you. Make sure you check out both our podcasts. Mine is Buff City, comes out every Saturday, and of course, Naps is Nap Knows Bills, and it comes out every Friday, guys. We appreciate you.
Go
Have
Bills!
A great rest of your Sunday.
All right, and with that, we are back. Nap Knows Bills back for the next hour or so, joined by Clay Troya and the bot, Zach B. I am Jeff Landers. If you are hanging out around with us until kickoff, go ahead and smash that like button. Go ahead and share it and get in on the Super Chats as we take you up to 12:30 Eastern before Bills-Chargers kickoff at 1 o'clock Eastern from Orchard Park, guys. Let's get right into this game. Clay, I'm going to start with you. Josh Allen, Justin Herbert. We're expecting an Old West style gunslinging, firing type of game, aren't we?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we're set up perfectly to have, an old style shootout. The weather's pretty good out in Western New York today. It's going to be around 50 and sunny. Great conditions. I don't know, if maybe those Southern California boys might struggle a little bit. I'm not sure, but the conditions are set up. And, with two guys like Herbert and Allen who have a big, strong arm, both of them are very mature as far as reading the pass game for their age. I think it's going to be, an old fashioned shootout. We could see both teams get into the 30s in points today.
Zach, in order for the Chargers to get into the 30s, they're going to have a good game from Justin Herbert, but they're going to have to go through the defensive backs. Buffalo's defensive back room finally full, it seems like, and finally healthy. What do you expect from the cornerbacks and the defensive backs as they prepare to confuse Justin Herbert?
Well, it's actually a big deal today because the Chargers that's their biggest weakness today. They're missing two corners for the game. So for the Bills on offense, it's a huge mission to exploit that. Obviously for Herbert, it's a mission that's more of an uphill battle for the Chargers. You have to assume that the cornerbacks are going to try and get into Justin Herbert's head, but that hasn't been working much all year. The style of play that, the Belichicks of the world are used to as far as implementing against younger quarterbacks does not seem to phase Justin Herbert. He has not had much issue at all. He is on pace to break almost every rookie record there is for quarterback. And these offenses are about as neck and neck as they get. The Bills are averaging just over 27 points a game, while the Chargers are averaging 26. So this is pretty much a dead even matchup offensively. And as far as rankings are concerned, the Chargers actually have the upper hand on defense. So the corners are going to have to play an exceptional game today to keep Justin Herbert under the benchmarks that he's been setting each week and under 30 points. We saw what he did against a weak Jets team last week, but nonetheless, it was incredible numbers. So Justin Herbert each and every week has potential to be one of the better quarterbacks in the NFL. And I don't see much sign of him slowing down anytime soon. So definitely expect a shootout today. The corners are going to have their hands full.
All right, let's bring in Nap Knows Bills. And I don't have a question about the game for you, Nap, just yet. But I was going to get the link to this YouTube stream about 15, 20 minutes ago. And I tuned in and I hear Casey talking about me. My name coming out of Casey's mouth. Do I need to drop some haymakers? What's going on? What's he saying?
No, Casey is a little salty that he hasn't been beating me in our one-on-one bets, and he wants a new co-host. So he was calling. He was actually calling for you to join him because he's just upset that I'm right more than he is.
Okay. See, I watched Meet the Parents from the year 2000 with my wife last night. I didn't know if I was being ejected from the circle of trust. So, Casey, get a hold of me if you want. But Nap, getting back to the game.
Whoa, am I getting kicked off my own show now?
Maybe we'll let Judge drop the gavel on that one. All right, getting back to the game. My first fill in the blank for the super chats, and we got a super chat coming in right now. Let's pull that one on up, guys. The pullout king. Well, I just showed it. Judge, you overruled me there. I got it up there now for you, Judge. Got my new Diggs jersey on. It's his B-Day. He's going 118 yards, 2 TDs. Herbert gets shut down today after the healthy Bills get after him. Pullout king, thank you for the super chat. Nap, you were just discussing that right before you went off. Tell me more about Stephon Diggs, because actually the NFL fantasy app optimized Stephon Diggs out of my roster, starting roster, onto the bench in favor of Tyler Lockett and Justin Jefferson. So should I overrule NFL fantasy app and put Stephon Diggs back in?
Yes. Yes. He, even on his bad days, he's a starter worthy in fantasy. He's going to have a good day. And especially with the fact that I'm all in on this with Paul King, especially with the fact that it's his birthday, they're going to want to get him at least one touchdown. If he can get two, that's very possible. So why not overrule it and put him back into your lineup?
Now, as I unmute my mic, the question becomes, do I take out Tyler Lockett or Justin Jefferson as we touch on fantasy?
I would probably take out Lockett just because he's splitting touches with DK Metcalf. And with Jefferson, Jefferson has nobody else in that wide receiver room who's competing with this week because Thielen is out with COVID. So he's going to get majority of the targets.
All right, and I wanted to get my first fill in the blank, super chat fill in the blank. Get in the chat section if you got one. Cody Ford is now on injured reserve. Mitch Morse has been, we've been told that Mitch Morse is now starting at center. So for the three of you, the best starting O-line looks like blank for the Bills. And I'm going to go to Zach with the first answer.
Well, I think the best starting O-line for the Bills is one that doesn't feature Brian Winters. I think the whole thing for me this week, it was shocking. I think when we had talked, Jeff, going into the last show, it was going into the bye week. The whole goal for this week going into the next, and the Chargers was to get healthy. And all of a sudden, after the bye week, I feel worse about the health of this team than I did going into the bye week. And it was a very concerning realization, especially with John Brown. But then to hear that, the line situation wound up becoming what it was, I did not expect that they were going to put why am I blanking on the name right now? I'm like IR.
Cody Ford?
Cody Ford. Yeah. I was not expecting Cody Ford to go on IR, especially with the issues that we've had on the offensive line. I'm more interested, not exactly the ideal scenario. I'm more interested to see what McDermott thinks the ideal scenario is going to wind up being, because we have had arguments about this for the last 2 weeks as to whether or not the unit that's been going out there consistently is the one that's best for the Bills. And today, you have to wonder if McDermott is going to stick with what he felt was best the last 2 weeks, if they alter it up due to putting Cody Ford on IR. I'm very interested to see what it winds up turning into, and what it winds up resulting into the run game, because obviously that's been the Achilles heel of the Bills as of late. Probably going to have to be a focal point today if they want to keep Justin Herbert from scoring infinite points. Obviously, the less possessions, the better. But the line is something I'm looking for exclusively today in its own way, just to see what they wind up going with.
Clay, one of your favorite topics is the offensive line. We were talking about the offensive line on the bye week, so it's got to be a topic of yours. Now with Ford going on IR, it's almost we have to start Mitch Morse. I know there are some fans who say Mitch Morse is your best center. He needs to be there, but it almost seemed like McDermott had trusted in John Feliciano a little bit more during the Arizona game for whatever reasons. Maybe Morse was still feeling just a little bit under the weather, but could go in an emergency situation. But now Morse has to go in. So where do you put Feliciano? Left side, right side? What's the line look like for you?
To me, it's wherever Feliciano feels more comfortable. And, they I'm sure they're having discussions about this week and going through the bye week. Where do you feel comfortable? Which side do you want to play on? Because wherever he knows those blocking assignments best is where he's going to be better suited, because he can make any block. He can make any block that's available. So as long as he knows what's going on, that's where he should be. And as far as, Feliciano versus Morse in the center position, I think Feliciano is a better lineman overall, which is why they were, leaning on the side of keeping him in over Morse. But Morse is better than both Butker and Winters. So you need to have, as many good linemen in there as possible. So get Morse back into the lineup like they are. Pick a side for Feliciano, and I would even say go with hot hand at this point for the other guard position, because I've seen Butker have good games and bad games. I've seen Winters actually have good games. I know, but most people don't think that those exist, but I have seen Winters have good games before where he makes minimal mistakes, I guess would be a good game for him. But I've seen them both play well. I've seen them both play bad. I really think going with hot hand might be the way to go for that other guard position, and that way it's, also a kind of motivator for those two guys to get back onto the field.
Now, it almost seems to me you might put John Feliciano onto the side of the line where Melvin Ingram is not going to be, and his backup, Uchenna Nwosu, is not going to be on that Chargers defensive line. That Chargers defensive line taking a beating with the injuries this week now that Melvin Ingram the third is on injured reserve and Nwosu is out for the game. So how do you piece this puzzle together going against the Chargers weekend defensive line?
I'm actually going to throw a different idea out there, and I'm going to steal it from Judge, because he actually put this in the chat, in the Fanatics chat. Not
Don't
anything that
I'm
stealing from Judge. I'm doing it. And it's one that I don't know how it turns out, but I think it's interesting to at least consider, where you have Ty Secchi at left tackle, Deion Dawkins at left guard, Morse at center, and then you have Feliciano and you have Williams. And that's like you just have your best 5 available that way. I don't know how that works out because I don't know what Deion Dawkins is like at guard. I think he's definitely athletic enough to pull from the guard position if they want to pull him out, like in a run blocking scheme. But that would be an interesting scenario. I think in this scenario, it's probably just not going to happen. I think you just roll with Bacher as much as people don't like him. He hasn't been great. He hasn't been terrible. He's been about what you expect for, a guy who doesn't really belong in a starting lineup. I think you just have to piece it together as much as possible and try not to run behind him. Wherever you place Feliciano, I think, is where the Bills want to try and run the ball more. So if they want to run the ball on the left side of the line, then put Feliciano on the left side. If they want to run the ball more on the right side of the line, put Feliciano on the right side. I think it completely depends because he's that mean, nasty run blocker who you want him leading the way if you're having a run play. So I think they kind of have to structure it that way.
What about placing him on the side that Bosa goes to the most? So you give either Dawkins or Darrell Williams a little bit of extra help with Feliciano, Nap?
I don't think that's a bad idea considering he is their best pass rusher. But once again, I think with this offensive line, like they've done a relatively good job in pass protection. So I'm not as worried about that as much as that sounds probably odd. I would much rather structure the offensive line based around where you want to run the ball because they've been pretty good in pass protection. And Josh Allen is the type of quarterback who we've seen his pocket presence has gotten a lot better. I'm not as worried about putting the line together because of the pass protection. Because Allen can get out of the pocket. He can run. He can avoid sacks. We've seen him do that all year long. We've seen him do that the past couple of years. It's one of the things that he is best at is actually making guys miss in the pocket. So I'm not as worried about that as maybe some other people are.
All right, 15 minutes past the hour, 11:15 out there on the East Coast, 9:15 right here in the mountains. We're going to go into our first Fantasy 15 topic. Quick hitting fantasy topic every 15 minutes at 11:30. We're going to have your super chat choice. So if you get in on the super chat, you can get in the Fantasy 15s. Who's going to have the best day in Bills Chargers? Zach's been quiet for a little bit. Zach, who's going to have the best fantasy day in Bills Chargers?
Well, it should be Cole Beasley, right? John Brown's out, and as we keep beating this dead horse, but it's one that I like going at because to me it is, or it should be rather, a focal point of the Bills offense week in and week out. It is getting Cole Beasley the ball. Obviously, Stephon Diggs is the main target, and that's going to be well known going into this one, especially with John Brown. And in fantasy, you'd probably want to pick Stephon Diggs in the situation. He's the only wide receiver in the NFL to have 10 or more points every single week, and he's guaranteed to get that, right? But with Beasley, there's opportunity for pure pop there, and I think we see that today. John Brown being on IR is a huge blow to this offense, and somebody is going to have to step up. Gabe Davis is obviously going to fit the role, I think, as well as he can. But with that, you have to get Cole Beasley involved more if you want this offense to groove the way that they're capable of. So I really see him, if they go the route that they should, I see Cole Beasley getting at least 10 to 12 targets. He catches everything that comes his way. Hopefully that winds up resulting in a touchdown. But I could easily see Cole Beasley hitting the 20-point mark in fantasy today, and I think he should. If he winds up getting there, that means the Bills' offense is humming, and they're running plays that we are looking to see, and that is over the middle routes to Cole Beasley, ticking down the field, and ultimately trying to keep this game close and in a shootout style. Cole Beasley is going to have to be a focal point within that, and I think he winds up doing so. So to me, if I have Cole Beasley, I know a lot of people have been asking me this week, should I start Cole Beasley? And somebody asked me, one of my buddies, like, should I start Cole Beasley over Juju was one of the questions. And to me, I was like, I don't know, man. I really think I would consider it because Cole Beasley has that opportunity to break through. And this week, with obviously the injury to John Brown, I think it winds up becoming even more of a necessity for him to do so. So I think Cole Beasley winds up popping today.
No, I think the chances of all of us picking a Bills player are pretty good. Clay, what about a Chargers player, Keenan Allen or a Mike Williams, or maybe even a Hunter Henry gets into the end zone two times? Who's your choice, and is it going to be a Charger, Clay?
I'll take none of the above. I'm going to go with Austin Eckler. He's coming back off the injury. He's looking very good. He did a lot of rehab. He was squatting 405 on his Instagram this week, so he's healthy and he's ready to go. He's my biggest concern, honestly, on the Chargers offense at this point, just because the Bills have had trouble tackling this year, and Austin Eckler is one of those small, quick, squirrely guys that the Bills are going to have a really tough time tackling. He's going to get a lot of carries. He's going to get catches out of the backfield, and he's going to be very effective. I think he could go for 150 plus all-purpose yards today just because he's going to be hungry coming off an injury and because he is fully healthy. And when I talked to some Chargers fans this week, they agreed that Austin Eckler could probably have a great day this week. And the Bills defense has not historically done well against running backs that are, elusive like that. So I think he's due up for a big day here. So for those fantasy owners that kept him, hopefully it's a big payoff for you.
Okay, Knapp, you just spent the last hour talking about fantasy. Give me your best fantasy player out of this game. And is it going to be Stephon Diggs on his birthday?
No, I think you have to go with Hunter Henry. And as much as it pains me to not pick a Bills player, I think the reason that you go with Hunter Henry for this is that we've seen this Bills defense struggle against tight ends. As much as Stephon Diggs can have a huge day, and I think I agree with Bot that Cole Beasley is going to have a huge day, the Bills defense has really struggled against good tight ends. We saw how big of a day Gesicki had. We saw how big of a day Travis Kelce had getting multiple scores. Hunter Henry is going to be put in a lot of positions to have success from a fantasy standpoint and just from a football standpoint as well. So I think if you have him on your roster, he's a must start because he's likely to have a very big day.
All right. I was thinking maybe it's going to be Justin Herbert or one of the quarterbacks going to have one of the biggest days. So it depends on who's going to throw for more touchdowns. Maybe Josh Allen gets in the end zone on a quarterback sneak or a rollout from 10 yards he can get in. So let's go with one of the quarterbacks. And, I'm not smart enough to know which one it's going to be, but I think obviously you always got to look at the quarterbacks in one of these old style shootout games having a really big day. But you touched on something I really did want to talk about too, Clay and Knapp. Austin Eckler, he is active. Kalen Ballage is questionable behind him, so maybe they're going to go to Eckler more and more and more. And we have struggled against the run, the Bills' defensive line. The Bills put out a thing through their PR saying how Jordan Poyer is one of the leading tacklers on the team. And you really don't really want your safeties to be the leading tacklers on your teams. If anything, you want your front line to be the leading tacklers because that means their other teams aren't getting a whole bunch of yards. The second line, the second level of our defense, that is Edmonds and Klein. How big are they going to have to be against the tight ends coming up in on the rush? Clay, I'll start with you. Klein and Edmonds, how big are they going to have to be?
Yeah, they're both going to have great games today. And we've seen, some improvement from Klein over the past couple of weeks, which has been great because he was playing very badly before that. So it's good to see that he's, come alive a little bit in the defense. Hopefully he can continue that. But I think Tremaine Edmonds is probably the key to the defense this week. Is he's going to need to be everywhere because, like Knapp said, Hunter Henry, we've struggled against tight ends. So, is Edmonds going to be able to cover up that middle? He's not very good in pass coverage most of the time, and when he's in that zone coverage, he tends to drift around and not really know where that guy is behind him if there's crossers or things like that. So I think Edmonds is going to be big because he can make a big impact in both the pass game and the run game. So if he's sharp today, that's really good for the defense.
Knapp, what do you think about what Clay just said?
I mean, I agree 100%. I think Tremaine Edmonds has to have a good day for this Bills defense to have success because you have to have an anchor in the middle of the field, especially when you go against a team that has a really good tight end. And I think we all know it's not going to be A.J. Klein that's that guy. So it has to be Tremaine Edmonds with his height, his length, his athletic ability. He has to be able to just cover and do his best to lock down that middle of the field. And a guy that maybe I don't know if he's going to play, but maybe Darren Lee could be somebody who I know he was activated. He could be a guy who they put on just to use his athletic ability to shadow a guy like Hunter Henry if they want to play Tremaine Edmonds in a little bit different of a role, maybe. But like the linebackers have to play well for the defense to have any sort of success against this Chargers offense.
All right, Zach, what are you thinking about that second level of the defense and what these guys just said? It seems like we're all in consensus, right?
Yeah, the thing for me is I wonder how much they wind up trying to get Austin Eckler involved and having to have Klein and Edmonds, take him down in the secondary. Because if you look at his stats before he got injured, they weren't anything earth-shattering. And I wonder if since it's his first game off the injury, if they really try to give him a ton of touches, because he never had over 20 prior to that, and he never broke 100 prior to the injury as well. And I'm thinking coming back, Balaj has had a pretty decent year filling in for Eckler. So I just wonder if the run game winds up being a major focal point for the Chargers. The way Justin Herbert has been playing, I just think, Eckler coming off an injury, I don't know if I give him a ton of attempts. And I almost make it seem in this one, stop Justin Herbert would be the focal point if I'm Anthony Lynn. Similar if I'm Sean McDermott, it's stop Josh Allen. So I think both defenses in this one, especially in the secondary, are going to have their hands full. You have two quarterbacks who are absolutely slinging the ball. Justin Herbert is on a 7-game streak where he has 2 touchdowns or more. So I think no matter what happens at the linebacker position, at the corner position, these are just two teams who know how to score. And I think that they're both going to wind up doing so. So to answer the question, are Klein and Edmonds going to have an impact on this one? I don't necessarily see them having an impact where it alters the game. I just think these two quarterbacks are too on fire right now. But in the run game, I just wonder if it's not as much the Bills' defense affecting it, rather than if it's the Chargers who wind up going to it like we think they will. I just don't think Eckler gets that many carries coming off the injury here.
All right, one of my next fill-in-the-blank questions. The Bills will slow down Justin Herbert by blank. The Bills will slow down Justin Herbert by blank. Go ahead and get in the comments section if you want to fill in that blank. And Knapp, you said on your podcast, you tweeted out, the Bills need to make Justin Herbert look like a rookie. How do they do that? How do they slow down Justin Herbert with blank?
You hit him. If you're not getting pads on Justin Herbert, he's going to make plays. And whether that means that they're blitzing and they get to him that way, or they rush 4 and they're winning their pass rush reps, it really doesn't matter. The bottom line is Herbert's the type of quarterback we've seen him put up numbers all year. And it doesn't matter if he's playing against good defenses, bad defenses, he still puts up numbers. The only way to actually stop a quarterback who's passing the ball as well as Herbert is to get pads on him consistently. And we saw that against the Seahawks. Russell Wilson was having an MVP season before that game, and the Bills hit him a lot. I think they had like 16 total hits on him, really high numbers. If the Bills can do that again, and there you go, pull-out king right there with me. If the Bills can do that again, where they're constantly pressuring and hitting Herbert, then, he's still probably going to put up numbers, but he's going to struggle to do it.
Zach, fill in the blank. The Bills will slow down Justin Herbert by blank.
By a marginal amount at best. He's been throwing. He throws for 40-plus attempts every game. 4 out of the last 5 games, he has thrown the ball 40-plus times. If you're going to focus on the pass game that heavily, with a quarterback who has scored 2+ touchdowns in 7 straight games and has had over 300 yards in the majority of them, I don't necessarily know if slowing him down is going to be in the cards. They just focus on him too much. And I think if anybody had that answer this year, they would have implemented it by now. Like I said earlier, he is on pace to break the majority of rookie quarterback records. That's how good he is. And I don't think anybody necessarily saw that coming into the league. For a rookie quarterback in his first start to come out and should have beaten the Chiefs and then go on to not lose a single game all year by more than 1 score, he should have multiple wins under his belt already. It is crazy to think about, but this Chargers team has an unbelievable amount of talent. And if there's a handful of games this year that easily could have gone the other way. We could be talking about the Chargers being a playoff caliber team had the ball bounced in a different direction in several of these games. Justin Herbert is the clear-cut rookie of the year, and he's one of the best quarterbacks I've seen coming out of college in a while. And when I say that, I mean right out of the gate. There was really no buffer zone. When Tyrod Taylor got hurt, Justin Herbert got up and went right in the middle of the game against the Chiefs, and he has not looked back since. So nobody has really found the antidote towards Herbert. The worst game he's had over the last stretch here was against the Dolphins. And we know how talented the Dolphins defense is. So I agree with Nap. I think the Bills' biggest advantage in going against high-powered quarterbacks is sending the blitz. Russell Wilson, who is the best quarterback in the league, in my opinion, didn't know what to do with himself against the Bills, and that was because they were getting the blitz home. The Bills weren't able to do that all year. They finally figured it out against the Seahawks, and Russell Wilson had 4 turnovers. So if the blitz can get home and if they can force Herbert to have a couple of rookie mistakes that result in maybe 2 turnovers, that will be huge. I think the turnover battle winds up being the difference because both offenses are so high-powered and so high-scoring. If defenses not necessarily find a way to shut them down scoring-wise, but find a way to get the ball back to the offense, it'll be huge. But I just don't see Justin Herbert slowing down today much.
All right, Clay, we're about a minute away from the inactives coming out, but let's get your fill in the blank here. The Bills slow down Justin Herbert by blank.
For me, it's kind of the opposite. I think the Bills should stop him by covering. I think they should send 4 and cover. A timely blitz every now and again is going to change up the pace, but Justin Herbert has some of the most yards under pressure this season, and that's because he's always under pressure. He doesn't have a very good offensive line. I think if you send 4, you can get home on those blitzes sometime. And if you're dropping everybody else back and you're covering, especially covering deep, he's got a great deep ball. So I think if they kind of play it almost like, teams have been playing Josh Allen a little bit, kind of like the Titans played Josh Allen, where they drop everybody back. They force Justin Herbert to stand in the pocket and be a true NFL passing quarterback, take away his first read, take away his second read. Then what happens after that? I don't know if as a rookie, he'll be able to handle that kind of, going through all his reads over and over, because if you take away those first and second, he might start to panic in the pocket. And like I said, they don't have a very good offensive line. So I think we might be able to get home on a couple of those, 4-man blitzes, especially if Jerry Hughes is feeling hungry today. So, I think covering is the best way to do it. Drop everybody back, make him throw short, take away the deep ball. I think that's the best way to go because, kind of like Zach said, you can only slow him down marginally. So why not just, take away that deep ball completely, make him throw short. And, I think the strategy should be, see what Austin Eckler has. If he starts to beat you, change up the strategy. But that's kind of their only guy since Balaj is out this week. So, see what he's got and see what Justin Herbert can do when you take away his first couple reads.
All right, we've got the inactives list. I've got them right here on Twitter. The Bills' 4 inactives, notable. Jake Fromm, of course, TJ Yeldon, inactive today. Tyler Croft is inactive, and so is defensive end Trent Murphy, inactive today against this Chargers offensive line. But just to what you were just saying, Clay, they're rolling with 9 defensive backs. The Bills like that number in their defensive backfield. I thought they might switch up and go with 5 cornerbacks and 4 safeties, but it looks like they kept their 5 safeties and 4 defensive backs. Of course, you got Poyer, Hyde as safety. You've got Taron Johnson, Trey Day, Josh Norman, Dean Marlowe, Saron Neal, Levi Wallace, and Jaquan Johnson, all active for the Bills in the defensive backfield. So they could be maybe planning on doing what you're saying by covering. As far as defensive line, 9 active as well. You got Jerry Hughes, Epinesa is active, Justin Zimmer, Quentin Jefferson, Ed Oliver, Daryl Johnson, Vernon Butler, Mario Addison, and Harry Phillips is active today. So just looking at those 2 groups, what does that tell you about maybe what the Bills want to do against Justin Herbert? And I'll get the linebackers in as well. You got Matakevich, Edmonds, Lee, AJ Klein, and Andre Smith all active. There's your defensive side active against Justin Herbert and Austin Eckler and the Chargers today. Knapp, what does this tell you about what the Bills would like to do against this Chargers offense?
I mean, it sounds like they might be going more with that idea that Clay was having, play and coverage. They have, they have all of their defensive backs, almost all of their defensive backs that they want out there active for this game. So maybe I'm wrong. I could have been wrong about that. That maybe they want to blitz.
Wrong?
Yeah, no, never. I'm never wrong. Never. But look, based off of the inactive.
Nobody tell Casey.
No, nobody tell Casey, because Casey thinks I'm always wrong. But that, based off the inactives list, it sounds like they might be focusing more on dropping into coverage. I think there could still be an element of they want speed out there, and that's why they don't want Murphy. But the one that really interests me about this inactive list, to be completely honest, is Croft, because we've seen he's been the guy who, he's been more of a go-to at tight end than anybody else. So I'm really intrigued by why he's inactive as opposed to anybody else.
But here, I'm going to give you the tight ends list, and this is going to give you a big clue as to what they might be doing. They're tight ends who are active: Lee Smith, Reggie Gilliam, and that's Gilliam, and Dawson Knox. They might be putting in what we used to call at St. Bonaventure hockey the meat wagon line. That they may be going heavy personnel a lot. But do you think they're going to be running a lot? But is this a clue? Is this who done it with the rope in the billiards room?
It better not be. There's no way that they're going to be able to run the ball today and expect to keep this game close. Herbert's going to throw the ball 40 plus times. If you're going to go into this game with the inclination of running the ball, I just don't see it happening. Despite the lineup, there's no way the Bills can go into this one having seen what their run game has provided them over the last several weeks and think going against a team who averages nearly 30 points a game that they're going to be able to get the job done. I mean, that would have been equivalent to them basically doing that against the Seahawks. And could you imagine if the Bills didn't do what they did through the air against the Seahawks? It wouldn't have been close. So to me, I don't think it really matters what the personnel is. There's no way that Allen throws the ball less than 35 times today. I just think that has absolutely got to be the focal point. I mean, there's no way I see this game not hitting the over. I think the over right now is at 55. To me, I think that's a gift. I don't know how it doesn't wind up hitting that. At least one of these teams get into the 30s. And in knowing the Chargers, there's just no way this game's not going to be close. They have not been in a game all year where it hasn't been close. So I just don't see the opportunity the Bills would even have today to have the luxury to run the ball. And even if they did, it's just something I don't necessarily want to see. To me, this is the type of game, even if the Bills do have a lead, they're going to have to continue to add to that lead. And the only way they're going to do that is through the air. So despite what it looks like at the tight end position today and kind of stacked up, I still think that the run game is going to kind of take a back seat against a team like the Chargers.
All right, Clay, it sounds like if the Bills run the ball one time in the first half, that will be one too many for Zach. Wide receivers, we got 6 active today: Beasley, Gabe Davis, Diggs, Andre Roberts, Isaiah McKenzie, and Jake Kumaro active, so he'll probably see some special team snaps. Not a lot of surprises along the offensive line with Morse, Butker, Winters, Bates, Dawkins, Williams, Feliciano, and Nsekhe active. And running backs, 3 of them active today: Moss, Singletary, and Taiwan Jones. So any clues on this list of actives and inactives of what you think the Bills might be doing against the Chargers today?
It's hard to say. I mean, with John Brown out, it does kind of limit their offense a little bit. And Matthew Berry, the ESPN fantasy specialist, he pointed out this week that Josh Allen tends to have a worse game statistically when John Brown is not in the game. So it does affect Josh Allen as well. And I think that's mostly because his chemistry with John Brown is so good at this point that taking him out of the game really just takes away that extra, an extra safety blanket for Allen. But I think we might see a little bit more in the screen game today. I think hopefully they're going to change it up a little bit as far as screens go. Maybe get a Dawson Knox screen in there. Get some Zach Moss, some Devin Singletary screens. Just because John Brown was the screen guy. We've all seen it 7 or 8 times. That's the only screen that they would really run to the wide receivers anyway. So I think we might see the screen game change up a little bit. But other than that, I mean, Diggs can still run the full route tree, and I don't think it matters who's covering him. He's going to get 10 plus targets. Because that's just the guy that he is. So, expect to see a lot of him. And I think they might have kind of and a large sense of confidence when it comes to the run game now that they have in their minds figured out the offensive line. So they might try to pound that a little bit early, and I think they could have some success with it just because I feel like, there's a little bit of extra time to watch a little more film. And when you're an offensive lineman, that could certainly help because you can look at the schemes that you've been running, what guys are in what techs and what kind of blocking scheme have we been running with that. So I think it could work out well, but I would like to see some more screens and not just to, that typical wide receiver tunnel screen. I want to see something a little different.
Yeah, hopefully that the running game can be more efficient. I don't need more running game. I just need better running game, I think, is what all Bills fans would like to see. And maybe in this deep dive that the coaches went into, as I remove you from a solo, there we go, Clay, that the coaches went into over the bye week, the deep dive. I hope they did a 3-meter dive into an Olympic swimming pool on the offensive line. Didn't just go into the shallow end and find some mistakes that they could fix, but actually maybe they need to go bigger up front just to get Motor to get his wheels unstuck out of the mud with the running game. But you mentioned John Brown, and this will be our last fill in the blank before we let you guys go. Quickly, guys, because there's one other thing I want to do before we let you guys go and we bring in the Bills guys. So we're going to get to fill in the blank quickly, and then one other thing, I think you guys know what it is. But this fill in the blank quickly. John Brown being out means the offense will blank. Clay segued into it with his bringing up John Brown. So Smoke being out means blank. Means the offense will blank. And Clay, we'll start with you.
Will suffer, I guess. And it's not going to be drastic, but when he's out, the offense does not perform as well. And like I said, that has a lot to do with him being a security blanket for Josh Allen. They have a great chemistry on the scramble drill that I don't think he really has that type of chemistry anyone else. When he's running out of the pocket, if there was anyone that was going to be able to get into his vision, it was John Brown. And that was his go-to guy when he would scramble out of the pocket. So that could lead more to, instead of, it's a busted play, oh, there's John Brown for 15 yards. Now it's a busted play and he has to throw it out of bounds. So, they're going to suffer a little bit, but it's not going to be drastic. They're still going to be very productive, but they might not be able to get to that kind of next level that they've been able to do in the past.
All right, Zach, you're up. John Brown being out means the offense will blank.
They'll regress for sure. They have, like Clay said, I don't think it's like a secret. I think everybody knows this by now. When John Brown is not on the field, this offense is not the same offense. And I think it speaks to how underrated John Brown is. Look outside the Bills community. Does anybody ever talk about John Brown, a guy who had a career year for the Bills last year and was probably the main reason for it? I think we look at him and we tend to undervalue what he brings to the table now that we have Stephon Diggs and Cole Beasley is a bit of a bigger name. John Brown is a huge, huge part of this team. Clay brings up a good point. I mean, that was Josh Allen's guy. Josh Allen had nobody prior to John Brown. He comes in, wind up turning around the offense a bit last year compared to the year before. Obviously, with Diggs, it's even better. But this offense, for whatever reason, is just not the same without John Brown on the field. And I would like to see what the utilization of Gabe Davis is going to wind up being. I'm a big fan of Gabriel Davis. I think that he deserves to get more targets with John Brown out. I think he is a threat and an up-and-coming star, but I just wonder if he'll be able to fill the gap enough. Like Clay made a good point. A safety blanket is huge for a quarterback, young or a veteran. You obviously want your guy there. And John Brown seems to really be Josh Allen's guy. Without him, you can tend to see Josh Allen gets a bit skittish in the backfield. He looks a little bit more uncomfortable, and we saw that in the games that John Brown was out. Those just so happened to be the Bills' worst games of the year. So I hope over the 2 weeks, in knowing that, because John Brown wasn't really fully healthy the last few weeks. There's no way he was. That's why he's out. And I hope that they kind of came around over the bye week and said, hey, we know we're limited without him. Let's try to implement different things to help kind of fill the gap. So I think they'll regress. To what extent, we'll have to see. Hopefully not too much.
All right, Nap Knows Bills. You said on your podcast 3 keys to a Bills win. Take advantage of big play opportunities. Will be a little bit tougher for the Bills without John Brown, right?
Oh, yeah. And there's not one guy that can replace him either. It's not like, well, Gabe Davis steps into this role and he's automatically going to be good to go. They're going to have to piece things together around him to be able to find those big play opportunities. It might be a little bit of utilizing Isaiah McKenzie on a jet sweep. Maybe it's the screen game. Maybe it is Gabe Davis. But it's not going to be just one thing. In order to find those big play opportunities, even if it means finding different ways to create them for guys like Diggs or Beasley, they're going to have to utilize multiple guys within the offense to be able to create those opportunities, because John Brown is so good that like he can't be replaced, and his production and his value on this offense can't be replaced by just one guy.
All righty. That is Clay Troya, Nap Knows Bills, and Zach Bot Talks Bills. Before I let you go, guys, we got to get it in. We got to get the bucket of death in. Here are the standings real quick. Judge is 4-0 after we picked Carolina for him on Rico's show last week. If he would have pulled out the Jets, we would have kept it for him right away. So, Judge, just know that. Clay, you're 3-1 in second place. Mitch is 2-1 in second place. Tilt 2-1. I am 1-2. Nap is 1-2. And Zach, you're 1-0, having joined us late on this. So, why don't we go in reverse order of the standings? Zach, you're undefeated. I'm going to give you the 1-0 first pick. So, here we go.
Got it, Rip.
You have the Cleveland Browns, and I didn't get my computer ready, of
That's
course.
easy. They got the Jags today. And
okay, you're going to keep that one, huh?
Leave that on the route to 2-0. If they lose that, hilarious, because that would pretty much – I mean, they're still riding their playoff drought. They're right there. They'd play the Bills if the season ended today. So if they lose to the Jags, that would just be the all-time. And you want to know what? Maybe you should throw it back in there, because that would be absolute classic Browns, but I'll stick with it. I think they should wind up winning it.
All right, we're going up the standings. So, Nap, you're next. The Minnesota Vikings, spotty team at best. If I could get ESPN to load. Here we go. Minnesota Vikings. Where
I want to toss
you?
it back in. I'm not comfortable enough with that. I want to toss that back in.
They're hosting the Panthers.
The Panthers are frisky.
Yeah,
you're locked in.
I don't like.
You're locked
I don't
in.
like that one.
You're locked in to whoever I pull out next. Denver Broncos. No quarterback. Denver Broncos.
Man.
You're pinning your hopes right now on Kendall Hinton at
They're
quarterback.
Gonna win. Yeah, no, 100% confidence. Lock it in. Denver's going to win.
All right, Clay, you are up. The Cincinnati Bengals are hosting the New York Giants. No Joey Burrow.
No, I like the Giants in that one. No Joe Burrow. No Cincinnati Bengals.
All right. Oh boy. Come out with the Buffalo Bills. We are all now jealous of you. So there are your picks. I'll get in on the picks next hour with Judge and Tilt. So guys, it is 9:46 Mountain Time, 11:46 in Orchard Park as the Bills prepare to take on the Los Angeles Chargers. That is, guys, thank you for joining us. We're going to bring in the Bills guys quickly. Give me one answer. Score prediction. Clay, you have 10 seconds. Score prediction.
34-31 Bills.
Zach, score prediction.
Yeah, that's pretty much right where I'm at. Mid-30s for the Bills, low 30s for the Chargers. I think the Chargers cover the spread at plus 4.5.
Nap, you said it on your fantasy hour. Give it to me again.
Yeah, I'm going to stick with what I said on my podcast, even though I said it before Eckler's back. But I'm going with 37-27. I actually think this is finally the game where – sorry about that. My dog found his squeaky toy. I think this is finally the game
where – dog on the podcast with us.
Yeah, maybe next time. But, yeah, I think this is finally the game that the Chargers don't make it close.
All right.
Yeah, I think Bills win big.
That's Clay Troya, Zach Bott, and Nat Knows Bills. Thank you very much for joining us on this first 45 minutes. We'll be right back with Judge and Tilt on the Buffalo Fanatics tailgate.
All right, Buffalo. After that improbable dagger in the desert, we're 7-3, still number one in the division, and coming off a bye, charged up and ready to go lights out against the Chargers. Let's show this rookie quarterback that it's not just about being a walking yearbook photo, that this is the NFL, and this is it. Our defense is going to be proactive and ready to pop. Let's shock the system and show we're the undisputed leaders of the AFC East. We need to begin this electric end of the season with a dub. Buffalo head to toe. Let's go.
I do not have your mic, Judge. You got to unmute your mic there, buddy. So
I forgot to
now
add. I forgot to add a background there, so we had to look at our beautiful faces during that transition there.
You're lucky I didn't start like picking my nose or something like that, you know. All right, so we're bringing in the Bills guys, Judge Mathis and David Tilton, Tilt Money. You got their Twitter handles right there on your screen. Zach Bott joining us for the next 45 minutes again. So before we've missed our fantasy 15s the last two times at 9:45. I want to get to that in a minute, but I want quickly, Judge, give us your overall thoughts on this game quickly.
I think that the inactives made it pretty clear. The Buffalo Bills are going to try to reestablish the running game today, and that's why Tyler Kroft is inactive for Lee Smith. And they're going to drop everybody into coverage, and they are going to try to really make Herbert throw the ball into some really tight windows. And it's going to be dependent on that defensive line to shut down Austin Eckler if we're going to want to shut down the LA offense.
Tilt, how does the defensive line get to Austin Eckler and Justin Herbert, as Judge Mathis says we need to do?
Well, here's the thing for me. I don't like the timing of this Austin Eckler coming back. I would much rather have gone against him live than Austin Eckler. He's been out, and Herbert has been fire with Eckler this year early in the season when Eckler was there. So this is a big game for Tremaine Edmonds, in my opinion, on the defense. If he's going to be the one kind of roaming around, trying to put the brakes on Eckler out of the backfield, we'll see if it's him and a combination of Poyer. So for me, this comes down to the Bills getting pressure with the front four, maybe five. So this is a big game, I think, for Jerry Hughes. It's a big game for Mario Addison. Those guys need to show up today on the edges and get some pressure. Judge mentioned Trent Murphy's inactive. So they're obviously going to be going for some more of the pass rushing variety on their defensive line with Murphy being inactive. So to me, big game needed here from Tremaine Edmonds and big game needed from our edge guys getting the Herbert.
How about AJ Epinesa too? I mean, come on. I know he's a rookie, and I know that they're bringing him along slowly. But if this is a game where you're going to show up and have your best game as a pro, this would be the week for AJ Epinesa.
Well, let's see what he can do. I think a lot of fans might have a little bit of anxiety on Epinesa being active, but they were clamoring for him to be active all early on in the season. So I want to get to our fantasy 15s. This is supposed to be at 11:45, now 11:50 East Coast time. Who will be QB1 this week? And Zach, you've been quiet over there in the corner. Who will be QB1 this week? Give me a quick name.
As far as in this game is concerned, or just in the NFL?
No, overall, fantasy football.
Wow. You know what? I think it has a really good chance to be either one of the guys that we're going to watch today in Buffalo. I mean, these two, I think Allen's projected around 30, and Herbert's good for 2 touchdowns and 300 each week. I wouldn't be shocked. Maybe winds up being the wide receiver in Denver. Who knows? Shock the world and maybe lead the way for fantasy points this week. But in actuality, I really wind up thinking it could be Josh Allen in this one or Justin Herbert. Two guys that I really think are going to have an absolute profound game. I just think it winds up coming in this one to who has the last possession or who can force the most turnovers. But in this game, I could really see Justin Herbert or Josh Allen edging out the top fantasy performance of the week.
Judge?
Was the question who's going to have the biggest game in fantasy this week?
Who will be QB1 this week?
QB1? I have a hot take here. I haven't really checked the weather, so I'm checking the weather real quick. Oh, it's being played in Jacksonville. I'm going to go with Baker Mayfield. I think that Baker Mayfield could have the biggest week going up against Mike Glennon and the Jacksonville Jaguars. I think that's a team that's going to go 3-and-out a lot because I have no faith in Mike Glennon to control possession for the Jacksonville Jaguars. And I think that Baker Mayfield could eat off the play action, and he could end up a game where, he throws for 250 yards but gets like 4 TDs off that play action. So I'm not feeling comfortable with the yards for Baker Mayfield, but this seems like a type of game against Jacksonville where he could put up a lot of touchdowns because we've seen those games from Baker this year where he's put up 3-4 touchdowns in a game and limited his turnovers.
Tilt, what are you thinking?
I'm going deep here to just go off the beaten path a little bit. I think the QB1 is going to come out of the Atlanta Vegas game. And I think it could be either of those guys. I think it could be Matt Ryan, but my pick's going to be Derek Carr this week. I think Derek Carr is in line for a big week. Atlanta is very good against the run. Statistically, they're dead last in giving up points to fantasy quarterbacks. So based on your scoring, they're either last or second to last. But I think Derek Carr is going to come out and have a big week. They're indoors in Atlanta. Could be a Henry Ruggs coming out party maybe today, finally. They got Aguilar, they got Waller, they got Jacobs. So I like Derek Carr to have a big game as a sleeper to be the number 1 QB in fantasy this week.
Is it too late to switch my answer to Deshaun Watson?
Well, I left Will Fuller on my bench with 37 points. So, yeah, if you want a retroactive, no, I don't want you to. I want you to guess who's going to be QB1 with the upcoming games. I'm going to go Russell Wilson. The Eagles' defense is not very good against mobile quarterbacks. A little next-gen stat here. Philadelphia's defense currently ranked 21 in passer rating allowed while a QB rolls out of the tackle box this season. So maybe Russ cooks something up in Philadelphia, maybe gets himself a little bit of a cheesesteak. So that's our Fantasy 15 topic. Let's move into some fill in the blanks. If you're in the super chat section, get in on the fill in the blank. We're at 129 viewers right now. Smash that like button, share it. Help us get up to 200. Let's see if we can get to 200 before kickoff viewing this. So the Bills need more from blank. The Bills need more from blank, and I'm going to start with you, Tilt Money. The Bills need more from blank.
The Bills need more from Dawson Knox, man. They do. It's easy to say the interior offensive line. We've beaten that drum to death over the last several weeks, and they're going to, with Ford out, obviously they're mixing things up. I'm going to stay away from that because that's an easier take. I'm going to say they need more from Dawson Knox. We need to see him show up in a game. I actually think he's played worse this year than he did last year as a rookie. I know he's had issues with injuries this year, with concussion. He's been on the COVID list, whatever. It's a game for him to shine today, I feel like, right? John Brown's out. Beasley and Diggs are going to get a lot of attention. I know the Chargers are down some of their secondary. I think Dawson Knox needs to show up. We need more from Dawson Knox down the home stretch. Especially now with Tyler Kroft being inactive for this game.
All right, Zach, don't fall asleep on me over there. I saw you maybe closing those eyes just a little bit. The Bills need more from blank. Fill in the blank.
Well, Dawson Knox is a really great answer, but I'm going to go with the wide receiver core collectively with John Brown out. I just think that we talked about this in the last segment. It's such a crucial guy to have out, and I think that Nat made a good point. It's not necessarily one guy who probably is going to come in and fill that role for John Brown, because there really isn't a guy to do that based on the role that he plays for this team. But collectively, I think the Bills have great pieces that can wind up kind of mitigating the damage. Can Gabe Davis come in and have a great performance? Can we get Isaiah McKenzie involved? Can we get different pieces of the Bills wide receiver core involved to kind of fill that gap a bit? We obviously know the capabilities of Stephon Diggs and Cole Beasley. It's the other guys that we need to get involved, because with John Brown, it ultimately allows for one of those guys to be open on a play, right? But now you can focus on just two. How did the Bills go into this week drawing up schemes to get the rest of the wide receiver core involved and to fill the gap that John Brown has created being on IR?
All right, Judge, who do you need?
I really want to go defense here since these two gentlemen went offense, but I'm going to stay on the offensive side of the ball as well. And I'm going to say the interior offensive line. Brian Winters, whether it's Brian Winters, Ike Butker, Mitch Morse, John Feliciano, Ryan Bates, whoever they are throwing in there in the three interior offensive line spots, they need to step up their game, because we're getting into the time of year. I know that it might be overstated by some, the weather in Buffalo, but at the end of the day, as you get into November and December, it's just a fact that the weather might be nice today, but the weather ain't going to be nice in some of our other games down the stretch. We need to play complementary football. We need to be able to have games where Josh Allen only needs to throw the ball 25 times. And we need some games to give our defense a break and control possession more than we have been this year. So whoever it is on the interior offensive line, they have to set it up, because they are what's holding back this running game. I don't fault Devin Singletary or Zach Moss and iota. I think they are two very good running backs. I think 110% of the issues on this offensive line right now are the execution of the three guys in the middle. I don't blame Brian Dable, and I don't blame the running backs. It's 100% of those three guys in the middle of that offensive line. They are not playing with the tenacity you need to play at if you are an interior offensive lineman.
Going with the iota, it's a big word. Glad we let Nap go as you use it as you bring in the big words. I'm gonna go defense since the three of you went offense, and it's not a bad I need more from. It's a good I want more. The Bills need more from Jerry Hughes. He's 9th on the team in tackles right now. He's tied for the team lead in sacks, and he had that strip sack against, it was Kyler Murray in the Arizona game. More from that, especially today. Jerry Hughes, go from an A to an A+. Go from an A to an A+, Jerry Hughes. Bring the heat today against Justin Herbert. Slow down Austin Eckler if you can. Bring it, Jerry Hughes. I want to see you be that franchise defensive player that Bills fans really have come to know and love. If he can help lead the charge on that defensive side, especially with Austin Eckler coming back. I think that brings a factor in. I know we think of Jerry Hughes as a pass rusher, but every once in a while you see him drop off and get a mitt on one of those balls. So if he can get after Justin Herbert, maybe he can drop back a time or two, throw in that confusion for the rookie. Bring me more Jerry Hughes. I want to see that with the defensive line. So it is noon on the East Coast, 11:59. I'll give you that. Noon on the East Coast, an hour away from kickoff. Let's get into another Fantasy 15 quickly. And every 15 minutes, we're going to hit a quick fantasy topic. Who do you need to have a bad week? Who's on an opponent's roster that you need to have a bad week? And Z-Bot, I'm going to start with you. Who do you need to have a bad week fantasy-wise?
Well, I'm taking a look here because it's really starting to heat up in my one league. It's like really top heavy, but where it's at is like super close. So like one game could drop you 3 spots as far as seeding is concerned. In looking at it, it really looks like I'm going to need the Bucs to shut down Travis Kelce because that's just a guy. People forget, man, he is 3rd in the league in receiving yards at the tight end position. I mean, that is just unbelievable what Travis Kelce does on a week in and week out basis. And looking at the guy I'm playing's roster, it just seems like the rest of it, if it goes pretty much status quo, I'll wind up winning. But Travis Kelce, like he did last week, has the capability of putting up 30. And I mean, that's a game I'm going to be watching closely, regardless of the fantasy implications, because I think that's like the game of the week. I don't think it's an argument, really. But Travis Kelce winds up taking these games over and can kind of dictate how they go. And if he winds up having a big one compared to my Hayden Hurst lining up across from him, it's not really close. So if Travis Kelce could wind up not doing much today, I wouldn't mind it at all.
All right, we're up to 165 viewers. Smash that like button, get the share on, get us up to 200 in this hour before kickoff from Orchard Park. Tilt, who do you need to have a bad week on your opponent's fantasy roster?
Well, let me tell you something. I'm in a league. It's my brother's league. It's a 14 team. There's 2 teams that are 10-1, and I'm one of them. And if I get the top seed, it's as similar as the NFL seeding. There's 7 teams to make the playoffs. The top seed gets a bye. So I really need that bye. The guy I'm going against this week has these 3 people: Justin Herbert, Austin Eckler, Mike Williams. 3 Chargers going against my Bills in his lineup. So if you start at the head, I really need Justin Herbert to have a bad game, right? Because if he has a bad game, it likely means less points for Eckler out of the backfield, and it likely means less points for Mike Williams against whoever our CB2 is today, which I don't feel great about that. So I really need Justin Herbert to have a bad game. I don't think he will, but I really do need him to have a bad game. The dude's been amazing. He's probably going to win Rookie of the Year now that Burrow's out for the season. And, man, my fingers are crossed that the Bills' defense can come in today and shut down Justin Herbert a little bit, just a little bit.
All right, Judge, who do you need to have a bad week?
Well, I'm going to go right back to this Monday night. Is it Monday Night Football game, right? Tampa Bay and Kansas City, or is it the night game?
That's 4 o'clock today. Actually.
4 o'clock game. Jeez, why is the best game always like 4 o'clock?
I know they never get it right, man.
But Anyway, that'll be the game that I am watching because in my 2 non-dynasty leagues where I'm actually pretty competitive in the top 5, but one of them, everyone's competitive. Like I could lose this week and drop down to like 9th, even though I'm in 5th place right now. Todd Bowles, I understand that when you were the head coach of the New York Jets, I made fun of you a lot. I understand. But I need you to step up this week, and I need you to shut down Patrick Mahomes because he is the starting quarterback going up against Josh Allen in both of these leagues. So I got Josh Allen versus Patrick Mahomes, mono in both of my non-dynasty leagues this week. So Todd Bowles, do me this one favor. You've been doing me years of favors by coaching the New York Jets to mediocrity. I need one more favor from you.
All right, I'm going to go with Derrick Henry. I got to have Derrick Henry not have a good game. NFL Fantasy's projecting him at only about 11 points.
It's a good matchup for him to not have a good game. So
it is,
good.
but here's why is because Antonio Gibson already got my opponent 37 points as her other starting running back. So if I could have Derrick Henry come down with a 3 or 4 point game, and if I go back into his stats, which my fat thumbs cursed me here. Last time he faced the Colts, with who he faces today, he only had 12 points, and that was in a home game. So if he could maybe have 10 or fewer fantasy points for Derrick Henry and the Titans, I would be very happy. Guys, going back to the Bills game, because we are supposed to be a Bills-centric, the defensive line for the Chargers, Melvin Ingram on IR. Uchenna Nwosu out. That's his backup. Maybe the defensive line comes limping in a little bit, and that's why the Bills are going with the meat wagon with Lee Smith and Reggie Gilliam at the tight ends to get those heavy personnel. Judge, what are you thinking with a defensive line that comes in with a broken wing?
Yeah, I'll tell you what. Number one, when Josh Allen drops back to pass, you got to be thinking of Bosa. Like Joey Bosa needs to be the first thing on your mind, whether you're chipping him with, Reggie Gilliam or Lee Smith or Dawson Knox, whatever you got to do to slow him down. I expect a lot of 11 personnel today, and I expect Dawson Knox to be lining up on whatever side of the field Joey Bosa is on. So even if Dawson Knox is running a route, I expect him to be chipping. Devin Singletary, Zach Moss, I expect them to be, pass blocking on those pass blocking plays. I don't expect them to be running out for routes because they have to keep Joey Bosa in mind. There's actually a clip that I want to play right now. I know I'm calling a little bit of an audible here, but it's from Zach Moss on last night's Rico Report. And he was talking about his favorite kind of run. And when I'm done playing this clip, I want to talk about some of the issues the Buffalo Bills might face if they try to utilize this run.
What are you taking? Which run? Where do you want? The middle? You want to toss? What do you want? What is Zach's favorite run?
For me, my favorite run is definitely going to be an inside zone run from gun. That's just something I've always ran, and that was a big staple play for us in college. So that's what I'm most comfortable with and really know how to run the best out of every other run that we run here now and things like that. So I'm definitely calling an inside zone run from gun either way.
There's an issue if the Buffalo Bills want to run an inside run from the gun, and that issue is Linval Joseph, who is a very good run defender. So the Buffalo Bills need to step up their game. Mitch Morse, John Feliciano, Ike Budker, Brian Winters, whoever it is, they need to get in there on Linval Joseph and get a little bit of a push if we want that inside run game to work, or they need to attack the opposite side where Jerry Tillery, despite being a very high draft pick and a guy I was really high on coming out, he has struggled so far in his time in Los Angeles. So they have to, if they're going to attack the middle of the defense with that run, they got to be aware of Linval Joseph and they got to attack Jerry Tillery. Anywhere else, the outside runs, maybe try to catch Bosa over pursuing or go towards the other side where they'll have a backup there at the other end spot.
It does seem like Joey Bosa is the biggest threat on that Chargers defense, especially up front. Zach, if you're offensive coordinator, Brian Dable, how are you bringing in, what game plan are you bringing in for the Bills to beat the Chargers today?
I just want to go back to the Zach Moss things. I just kind of find it funny. The one run that seems to never work for the Bills just winds up being his favorite run. So I just, that was hilarious to me a little bit. But anyway, Judge came out into this show with conviction, saying that he really thinks that the Bills are going to try to run the ball. And the more I think about it, the more that's probably true, because I think that they went into the bye knowing it was abysmal and it had to be pretty much redone from the ground up. Looking at it today, what I want to know after this one is, did Brian Dable and Sean McDermott do enough in the 2 weeks they had to make altercations to that run game to make it competent? That's all I'm looking for. I'm looking for a Bills run game that is competent enough to complement Josh Allen's play action game. He has the best play action game in the entire NFL. I'm not looking for Singletary and Moss to run for 100 yards apiece, but I'm looking for them to do enough to establish the play action game. If they can come out and not run the ball on 1st and 2nd down and lead into 3rd and 8s all game, that's all I really ask for out of this run game. The Bills, when the reason that I keep getting this label as the guy who never wants the Bills to run the ball is because they run the ball in certain situations that is just completely unnecessary. I find the Bills running the ball on 1st and 2nd down, getting at best 2 yards a carry, and next thing you know, it's 3rd and long. I can't tell you how many times the Bills have found themselves in that scenario this year. So what I want to see is a bit more creativity out of the run game, a competency in the run game to allow for play action, and not running the ball when it's not necessary. If they run the ball on 1st and 10 and it gets bricked at the line for 1 yard, for the love of God, do not run it again on 2nd down. I'm just looking for like minor altercations to the run game, just enough to make it somewhat competent, because it hasn't been that. If they can get that and compliment Josh Allen, it's huge.
You want the word efficient. You want more efficiency out of the run game. We don't need more running game. We just need more efficiency.
Yes.
But I want to flip this conversation on its head, because we have a Chargers team coming in. They are 3-7 on the year. They're only 4 up from the bottom of the standings in the AFC. But I watched this team, and there's no way this team should be 3-7 on the year. They maybe should be 7-3. Till, I want to get to you. Where have the Chargers' faults come, if you've been watching tape, and how do they come into this game 3-7? They must be the most underrated 3-7 team in the history of the NFL.
Yeah, well, I think it starts somewhat with their injuries on defense, right? I think sometimes, teams are able to kind of attack them because they've had guys in and out all year. Obviously, Derwin James hasn't been there all year. They've had stretches where Bosa's been out. They've had now stretches with Ingram being out. So they really haven't had their 100% defense on the field really at all this year. And I also think that sometimes they get a little pass heavy with Herbert. You see a couple of the more recent games, they really have committed more to the run with Kalen Ballage as much as I don't think he's that great of a running back. And I know Steve probably agrees with me there. Getting Eckler back today is something that's going to help them, right? I think the Chargers, when they're running the ball well, and when they commit to the run, when Anthony Lynn commits to the run, they're a tough team to beat. And the problem, I think, which has been their problem, is they get these leads because Herbert kind of comes out slinging it, and then they really can't finish teams off by running the ball and kind of pounding it down their throats. So that, to me, has been the issue for them earlier in the year. More recently, they've been able to do that, and that's why I think that they've had a couple wins here recently. But they certainly don't feel like a 3-7 team to me, and I don't think the Bills should be taking them lightly. They've got great weapons. They've got, obviously, Eckler back. So with Eckler and Williams and Allen and Henry, we're going to have our hands full today. So for me, that's been the main thing, I think, with the Chargers, is that they just haven't been able to finish off games by running the ball. And I think that's something they could do today, potentially.
Judge, I want to get your thoughts on this, because as Tilt's talking, I'm thinking back to, the Drew Lock pass with no time left. They gave Kansas City a run for their money in Los Angeles. It seems to be end-of-game situations that head coach Anthony Lynn and the Chargers have not really been able to figure out. And they come into Orchard Park with an opportunity to show that they're not really a 3-7 football team.
I think that despite the injuries to the Chargers defense, I mean, Derwin James hasn't even played in 2 years, and he's one of the best defensive players in football. Despite all that, Lone Wolf says right in the comment section, you are what your record says you are. And they are 100% 3-7 because their head coach is Anthony Lynn. He is one of the least analytical coaches in football. His time management is atrocious. He will run the ball he will throw the ball on first down. It'll be incomplete, and he'll come back on second down with a run, which is not what you want to do analytically in those situations. He is the reason why they can't close out games late. I mean, are we surprised this dude fell out of the Rex Ryan tree? I mean, if he would have been named the head coach of the Buffalo Bills, these conversations that the 3.5 Chargers fans there are in existence out there are having and screaming into the abyss because there's just no one listening. Those conversations that those 3 Chargers fans are having, punching their hand through a wall, talking about how terrible Anthony Lynn's management is, we would be having that conversation on this show right now if the Buffalo Bills had chosen Anthony Lynn as their head coach. He just can't close out a game. He doesn't know how to manage a game. Root Beer says, let's not forget how bad their special teams are. So he doesn't really understand that it is a 3, there are 3 units in the game. So I just think that team, I love Anthony Lynn. I think he's one of the best human beings on the planet. I mean, the dude is just amazing. And I think that there's a place for him on a coaching staff in the National Football League. But unless he's a CEO head coach, which right now he is not, unless his hands are really off, I don't trust that man to win a football game. And that's why the Buffalo Bills are going to try to come out. They're going to try to run first, drop everybody back, because Sean McDermott probably feels pretty comfortable that in a 7 to 10 point football game, the Buffalo Bills are going to come out on top.
Yeah, the Chargers, I believe I counted correctly, are 2-7 this season in 1 score margin. So 2-7, it's that end of game situation.
And one of them was against the New York Jets. So does it really count?
It counts, but I mean, that's their second win in a 1 score game. And it was closer than that because they took, it should not have been a 1 score game because they took the safety, which would have made it 9 points, I think, on that final score. So they took the safety and then punted back with 1 second left. So Zach, this Chargers team, what are you seeing out of this Chargers team? As we're at 191 viewers, let's share that. Let's smash the like. Let's get this to 200 viewers with 45 minutes to go before kickoff. Zach, Chargers, what are you seeing? Are they really 3-7? They have the talent to be better.
I see them as one of the tougher remaining games for the Bills on the schedule. I really think that these guys can beat anyone. They just beat themselves every single week. They should have beaten the Raiders. They had 2 drop passes in the corner of the end zone that would have resulted in a win. Somehow Drew Lock scores with no time left to beat them at the end. And you got to remember, they have played really good teams really close. They took the Saints to overtime, and they took Kansas City to overtime. The Chiefs could wind up winning the AFC, and the Saints are already leading the NFC. So you got the 2 leading teams in each conference. They took both of them to overtime. I mean, I don't know they just cannot win at the end. And I think Judge makes a good point. How much of that comes down to coaching? Because a lot of times it's schematics when it comes down to, final drives. And clearly they are incapable of executing anything on defense or offense when it comes to the final drive. But when you look at this schedule, I could not imagine being a Chargers fan. I really couldn't. It's like the Saints in the playoffs, but every single week. It's unbelievable. The heartbreak has to be demoralizing. But you look at their schedule, and if a caught pass against the Raiders goes their way, if Drew Lock throws the ball out of bounds at the end, if they find a way to win a couple overtime games, we really could be talking about the Chargers going to the playoffs. So as much as I want to say the record indicates who you are, I don't know if we know who the Chargers are. And I really think going forward, they could really wind up being a dangerous team in the AFC for years to come. They are super young, and I think that has a lot to do with the fact that they wind up losing these close games as well. But in looking at the remaining schedule for the Bills, this just seems like one that's going to be one of the tougher ones. This offense is electrifying, and they keep every single game close no matter who they play.
Well, and I'm trying to read through the comment section here, and PJ Ty says, "Good God, Davis already dropped the ball in warm-ups. Nervous."
Hey,
Guys,
he's not
it's
Zay
warm-up.
Jones, though. He's not Zay Jones.
But I wanted to get that comment in, but I want to go bigger picture now because I love the big picture. A win in this game sets you up for a bright December. I mean, you're going to be 8-3 if you win this game against the Los Angeles Chargers. You don't know where you're going to play your next game. It's not going to be in Santa Clara County on Monday Night Football against the San Francisco 49ers. If it's in Arizona, maybe Las Vegas is available, but you need a win just to, if anything, take a little bit of that stress and anxiety off as you go into an uncertain location on your next game. You know the opponent, but you don't know the location. And it's a prime time month. So a win today sets the Bills up for 4 straight prime time games. Or should be, I should say, nationally televised, not quite synonymous with prime time. And then a game against Miami that could be flexed if Miami is in that playoff hunt and there's no other game. So Judge, Tilt, Zach, I'm going to start with Tilt. We're going into December. Big picture, a win means what for this team?
I think a win today pretty much sets the Bills up to win the division, right? I think it also gets them that confidence back after kind of waiting for 2 weeks after the Hail Murray incident, having that kind of linger through the bye week, having to deal with the constantly seeing the DeAndre Hopkins photos and videos all over, media and football shows, whether it's on NFL Network, ESPN, whatever it may be, right? So a win today not only sets the Bills up to win the division, but it gets that bad taste out of their mouth that they've had the last 2 weeks. And I think, honestly, that's why I think you're going to see a very motivated and maybe a more of an emotionally charged Bills team today than you've seen in prior weeks, because I think it's really bothering them, that loss, and they really want to get that feeling out of the system. Having to wait that extra week sucks. So a win today for me, you get to 8-3, like you said, Jeff, and I think at that point you likely only need to win one, maybe even 2, maybe even one more game to win the division. And honestly, obviously, that's the goal. You'd like to go into the playoffs with momentum, but if win today really would put the Bills in a great shape to win the division with only five games to go after that. So that to me is what a win does for them today.
Judge, what does a win do for this team?
Dave made a great point. A win puts us in contention for the AFC East. I don't see us catching Pittsburgh and getting that 1 seed. So really my mind is just on the AFC East. Get that home playoff game. The more wins you can stack, the longer you can stay at home in the playoffs. But at this point, with no fans in the stands, who really cares? Just get your division, get that 1 game, because I think Bills fans want to see it, even though they won't be able to see it in person, and get yourself into the playoffs. But I think COVID plays a factor in this as well, because there were rumors swirling that the NFL was going to cancel this week's games, this weekend slate of games. There were rumors swirling that they were considering axing all of Sunday's games and Monday's game due to concerns that players were not following protocol during the holidays and having family over. The NFL is they are monitoring it closely. They are watching practice footage. They are following these players, tracking bracelets, all these different things. So they already have plans in place. If COVID were to axe the season, they already have plans in place for an expanded playoff to start, even if they can't finish the regular season. So the more wins you can stack now, the better off you are if they have to cut the season short and go straight to the playoffs.
I totally agree. Zach, I'm looking at this AFC playoff picture. I think Judge is right. We are not going to be able to catch Pittsburgh. We can beat them still, but then would need a lot more help down the stretch. Kansas City is probably the only one that can. But stacking wins keeps us in that 3rd seed and helps us to play what would be the 6th seed going into the playoffs. So stacking wins, maybe a win here helps us. Let's get a super chat comment up in here before I get to Zach. Bills are going to come up. Judge, I got it. You keep overruling me. I got it, buddy.
All right.
The pullout king. Bills are going to come out swinging hard. LA won't know what hit them. Thank you very much for the super chat, pullout king. Zach, Bills are going to come out swinging hard. LA won't know what hit them. Bills win this game means what for the AFC playoff picture? And maybe the Bills can determine through how they finish the rest of the season who they get to play in that home playoff game.
To me, it's momentum right now. That's the one word that I get going into this game and moving forward. It's the last game in November. And like Till had mentioned, and it's bigger than we can imagine, how much that Hail Mary has weighed on these guys. Does it not feel like it was a year ago at this point? It feels like it was forever ago.
Does.
And it was the last game. And as much as it's lingered with us, it's lingered twice as much with those guys. This is the first opportunity they have had to go and put that away. And I can't imagine they want anything more. You win today, it's over. Who cares? Especially with the Dolphins losing to the Broncos last week. If you get a win today and you can put that behind you, I mean, in reality, like, honestly, who cares? Like, it's over, and it really didn't matter much. And that's what's the nice thing about it. But momentum going forward, because I can't think of a bigger month of football in December for the Buffalo Bills, maybe in my entire life. We have prime time almost every single week to close out the year. Every game is big. I think the 3 seed is probably as high as it gets, but it's not necessarily about seeding for me at this point playing these teams. It's about where does the Bills match up in the playoffs? If the Bills can beat the Steelers, what does that say about the Bills going into the playoffs? They're a front runner in the AFC. I mean, there's a ton of big opportunities the remainder of the season to prove who the Bills are. So I think the 3 seed is probably as good as it gets. I mean, the Chiefs would have to basically lose out for the Bills to go any higher. So for me today, it's putting that game behind you and getting momentum going into December. That's the focal point, and a win does both of those things.
And what I really, really want is for the Bills to keep stacking wins just to make it that much harder for the Miami Dolphins to get that, because you add a win against the Chargers, that's a common opponent toward the tiebreaker for the Bills. Make it harder down the stretch for the Dolphins to catch you. Maybe demoralize them. Maybe Adam Gase can do Adam Gase things and win a game and jeopardize that first pick. Just because that would be the most JETS thing you could do if you're Adam Gase, is to start putting wins. And you're going to go down to Miami, and Miami has been such a hot topic for Bills fans lately with Brian Flores benching Tua last week. Tua now going to start in the Meadowlands against the Jets this week, putting Ryan Fitzpatrick back on the bench. Thank you for the pick, Ryan Fitzpatrick, last week as the Dolphins fall. It's a big picture race for me. And you're right. The lights are going to be bright in December, Z-Bot. You got at the 49ers, wherever that game's going to play. You get home against Pittsburgh. You go to Denver on a Saturday, nationally televised, the only game in the window. And then you get New England out there on Monday Night Football. So if you can stack this win, it's going to give you that flexibility, even in the bright lights, to maybe drop one under the lights. But if you get this one, bury Miami. Just go ahead and bury Miami.
And Jeff, to your point, Tua's actually benched. They claim he has a busted thumb.
I missed
so
that.
Me, that
so
means
I misspoke.
Bench. Yeah. So, but to me, I just think, like, in classic Fitzmagic fashion, perhaps not necessarily Jets fashion, but in Fitztragic fashion, rather, he comes out and loses to the Jets. Like, honestly, it wouldn't like blow my mind, because it's Fitzpatrick. Not only does he love Buffalo, but he also handed them the game last week and gave the Buffalo Bills a gift too. But I just, not to get into it, but the fact that Tua is benched this week, there's no way he's actually injured. The fact that he is benched, what is going on in Miami? That is an insane storyline. At this point, I would not be shocked if they used Houston's pick to draft a quarterback in the upcoming draft. It's a very, very odd circumstance to me. It makes no sense.
All right,
I just think
it's the correction on me.
I just think it's Brian Flores realizing maybe that his team is within reach of making the playoffs this year with the way his defense and special teams is playing, and thinking to himself, oh, we went on a heater when I didn't think we'd go on a heater with Tua. And now Tua's coming back down to earth because that's what rookies do. But he sort of won those 3 games, even though he wasn't responsible. So I want to go back to the quarterback who sort of was responsible for the wins we did have when it was a full team, when it was full, complete team wins. So to me, it's Brian Flores thinking, when he put Tua in that they weren't going to win the games that they did. I mean, clear as day. And then he saw them fading against the Denver Broncos team he thought they should beat, and he put in Ryan Fitzpatrick, and now he's got the perfect excuse with that thumb injury, which I do think is real, but it's a great excuse.
Yeah.
For him to sit Tua, and I think you'll see Ryan Fitzpatrick until they're eliminated.
All right, there's our thoughts on. Before I get to score predictions, we're going to leave you guys at right about 12:30 with half an hour to kick off, so you guys can get some food in you, get it ready.
I'm going to actually stay on until 12:50 if any of you want to stay with me. I know you got to go home to catch the game.
Yeah, I got to get out of my office and drive home. So
I know, but I'll be on until 12:50, and I'm bringing on a special guest as well. But anyone who wants to stay is willing to stay.
All right, but before I leave you then, and Zach Bot leaves you, and Tilt, you staying on?
Yeah, I'll stay on. Why
I'm
not?
sorry you have to spend more time with Judge. Before I get to score predictions, as we always do, we got to do the bucket. Zach already made his pick. He kept the Browns, and we're going up the standings to give you a better chance at a helmet. For Judge and for Tilt, here are the standings. Judge is 4-0 after we picked Carolina for him last week on Rico's show Friday night. Clay 3-1, Mitch 2-1, Tilt you're 2-1. I'm 1-2, Nap is 1-2, and Zach, I put you at the bottom because you picked one time and you got lucky picking the Chiefs. So since we have 3 picks to go here, I'll go first since I'm at the bottom of the standings. And I pull the New England Patriots, and just out of principle, I'm throwing it right back. I don't even care who they're playing today. And that would be the Cardinals. So throwing it back anyway, even if I didn't hate the Patriots asterisk. And I pulled the Dolphins, and they play the Jets. So if they win, I'm okay with that with my pick. If they lose, you know what? I'm okay with that as well. So I'd almost prefer a loss. Now we're going to Tilt 2-1 in the bucket of death, and Tilt has the New Orleans Saints down in New Orleans. And they are playing the quarterbackless Broncos. The Broncos
keep the Saints for me.
Kendall Hinton will be playing quarterback for the Denver Broncos as they play the Saints out there at Mile High. Judge, I'm trying to pull the Jets for you, man, but I'm not looking. So hopefully it comes true. If I can pick up, one fell out of the helmet, so we're going to start over. The Las Vegas Raiders, and they will be playing the Falcons today. Judge, you going to take them?
Yeah, give it to me.
All right, Judge is taking the Raiders in Atlanta against the Falcons. Those are our helmet of death picks this week, guys. Before we let you go, score predictions. Z-Bot, you gave one to me last hour. I didn't know you were sticking around, so give it to me again.
Yeah, to me, I just think that both teams wind up getting into the 30s. I think the Bills edge it out a bit towards the end. I think the Bills wind up winning it. I think it's going to be 35-31, although I do see the Chargers covering the spread in this one. No reason for me not to think so because they keep every game close. But in the 30s, Bills wind up winning it close.
Judge, you're going to take the over?
What's the over?
55.
I had it written down 52.5, but Tilt says it went up 55.
No,
yeah, I'm going to take.
Yeah.
I'm going to take the
52.
I'm going to take.
Wow.
I'm going to take the under. I think looking at the Buffalo Bills inactive lists with guys like Lee Smith playing over Tyler Kroft, I think the Buffalo Bills are going to try to artificially keep the score low. I think they're going to try to run the ball and establish the run on offense. I think they're going to drop a ton of guys back for Justin Herbert, which is going to force the Chargers to either run the ball with Austin Eckler or throw into coverage. And I have the Bills winning this game 27-23. The Chargers have the ball in their hands with a chance to win the game, and they find some embarrassing way to blow it.
Tilt, how are they going to blow it?
Well, so this is interesting, right? The game opened as a 5.5 point Bills favorite, is now on Sportsbook AG down to 4, meaning late money coming in on the Chargers here. People didn't like that 5.5. Over-unders at 52, and the Bills favored by 4. I like the Bills to win, and I'm going to put it right at the number. I'm going to say the Bills win 31-27. I do think that the Chargers may have the ball at the end, but I think that the fact that they'll need a touchdown to win it is going to be their undoing, and they will not make it happen. So I'll say the Bills win 31-27.
All right, I'm going to tell you before we all go, I don't think we need fourth quarter Josh Allen in this game. I think after the bye week, we're going to come out and establish the run, like Judge says, and we're going to get up enough, and we're going to confuse Justin Herbert enough that he's not going to be able to make it a close game in the end. I'm going to go with about maybe 35-26, let's say, Buffalo on that. And that should put us right at, that would put us over and the Bills covering the spread. So with that, 35-26 is my score prediction. Zach Bott, thanks for joining us for the full hour and a half. Tilt and Judge, those are the Bills guys. And they have a podcast, The Bills Guys. You can get it during the week. And Z-Bot talks Bills during the week as well. So, guys, enjoy the game and go Bills.
Go Bills.
Go Bills.
We will be back after this short break with a special guest.
What are you taking? Which run? Where do you want? The middle? You want to toss? What do you want? What is Zach's favorite run?
For me, my favorite run is definitely going to be an inside zone run from gun. That's just something I've always ran, and that was a big staple play for us in college. So that's what I'm most comfortable with and really know how to run the best out of every other run that we run here now and things like that. So I'm definitely calling an inside zone run from gun either way.
All right, welcome back. And I forgot to download the correct background, so give me a minute here as it downloads on the fly. But that was a clip. That was a clip from the Rico Report on Friday night. For those of you who do not know, from here until the rest of the end of the regular season, Rico will be joined every Friday night by members of the Buffalo Bills. So if you're into hearing the players on the Buffalo Bills talk about the actual Buffalo Bills, join Rico, join Mookie Hawkins, and join Nick Gary every Friday night on the Rico Report. I think they have 2 Bills lined up for this week, so it is much watched television. So that being said, for the final 20 minutes here, we are joined by a special guest, one of the newest contributors to the Buffalo Fanatics. His name is Brian, and he is one of 2 members of the Breaking Tables podcast. How you doing today, Brian?
Gents, what's going on, guys? Game day.
Not
I'm
too
ready.
much.
You ready?
Oh yeah. Now you're coming from Tampa, Florida. Is that correct?
No, I live down here in Fort Lauderdale.
Oh, all right.
Yeah.
But I know you'll be down in the Super Bowl in Tampa, right?
We are going to be doing a live stream from the Super Bowl facility, Tampa Festivities Marina, some marina out there. That's where they're going to have all the festivities. So we're going to be on this nice boat. My buddy Neil Moneyman Bono is going to give us the opportunity to do a live stream on his boat.
Nice. That should be fun.
It's gonna
hopefully
be
we
awesome.
Hopefully we can get Rico and Pierre and stuff to live stream it over here from the Fanatics account. Talk about your podcast. Talk about your podcast a little bit. What you and Mark got going on every Tuesday morning on the Buffalo Fanatics.
Yeah, well, Mark and I, we started off, we're Displaced fans. We're from Buffalo area, and now we live down here in Fort Lauderdale. We just wanted to talk shit about our favorite team, and that's pretty much all we do. We joke a lot, and we give a bunch of false information most of the time, but it's all fun and games, and that's our podcast.
We got Lone Wolf in here saying you sound like a Jets fan. How do you feel about that?
I sound like a Jets fan. Oh, wow. Geez, don't break my heart like that.
How do you sound like a Jets fan? That's what I want to know.
No, I don't sound like that.
All right. So what do you think about this game? It's Justin Herbert versus Josh Allen, 2 of the bigger offenses in the National Football League. What are you expecting from the Buffalo Bills offense today?
Josh Allen is going to run probably at least 50 yards today and throw. He's going to do his Jarrett Patterson 400 and plus yards on the air, not running like Jarrett Patterson did for UB. But no, he's going to kick ass. He's going to get probably 5 touchdowns today, 1 rushing and 4 in the air.
You're feeling that confident the Buffalo Bills offense is going to go off on San Diego Chargers?
We're going to smoke these guys. It's going to be 42-10. It's going to be 42-0 by halftime, and then the garbage points are all going to come in the third, maybe fourth quarter for the Chargers.
What do you think the game plan or the focus is going to be for the defense? What do you think our defense has got to do?
Don't let Eckler start. Don't let Eckler start going. Stuff him. Make Herbert throw, or make him one dimensional. Just have him, he's a rookie quarterback, guys. Rookie quarterback. We just got to get to him, rattle him, and I don't think he's going to compete with a healthy secondary Buffalo Bills.
All right, let's take a look at the inactives real quick. And Dave, I'm going to switch it over to you real quick. Let's talk about two of the biggest names on the inactive list today. The first is Tyler Kroft. What are your thoughts on Tyler Kroft being inactive today? I know I had to make a last-second fantasy change because I had Mark Andrews as my tight end. So at the very last second, I picked up Tyler Kroft on the waiver wire and inserted him into my starting lineup. And then I had to quickly rush to switch him with Dawson Knox. So what are your thoughts here on the inactivation of Tyler Kroft?
Well, it's interesting because clearly the tight ends they're going with are the bigger, the bulkier guys, right? They got Lee Smith in there. They got Knox obviously in there. So with Kroft being out, you're probably going to see more 11 personnel like you mentioned earlier. I think that they're going to chip on whatever side Bosa's on. Obviously with Ingram out, it certainly helps the Bills a lot. They can pretty much move the tight end to whatever side of the line that Bosa lines up on, help out on that side. But again, I said this when we were on with Jeff, like, who do you need to see more of? And I want to see more of Dawson Knox. So with Kroft being out, Lee Smith, again, other than his sort of customary one goal line, weird trick play touchdown he gets every year, it's seemingly, Dawson Knox has an opportunity today to do something, right? To do something for the offense, not just blocking. He has an opportunity to do something in the receiving game where, Chris Harris is likely going to be locked up on Cole Beasley in the slot. Diggs is going to do his thing, but there's no John Brown today. So Knox is going to get some looks today. So I expect that with Kroft being out, this is a chance for Dawson Knox to kind of not silence the haters necessarily, but maybe quiet them down a little bit, slow them down a little bit, show that he can do something. And look, it doesn't have to be a ton of volume. It can be 2 or 3 plays, 2 or 3 catches that are significant, screen, an angry run, whatever it may be. If he can make his presence felt, that's what I think. Less so about Tyler Kroft and more so about, let me see what Dawson Knox can do with added opportunities today.
Brian, what do you think? Is this the game where Buffalo Bills fans finally get off Dawson Knox's back?
I was going to get rid of my Dawson Knox signed jersey because as soon as I got that jersey, he started playing 2020 Knox. And we don't want that. We want last year's juggernaut running guys over Dawson Knox. That's the guy where we want. And he's got a good chance today because they're banged up in the secondary for the Chargers defense. So Diggs is good. They're going to send, what's the guy's name? Chris Harris Jr. You're going to send him over, slide him over on Diggs. And that's going to leave Beasley, Gabriel Davis, and Dawson Knox to have a potentially great game.
Yeah, Chris Harris is really interesting, right? Because Dave, you mentioned you think he's going to be on Beasley in the nickel. And Brian, you mentioned he's going to be on the outside against Stephon Diggs. He legitimately could, with the zone heavy scheme that they run, he could legitimately play either. I remember in his final year in Denver, John Brown ran right past him for that touchdown that Josh Allen threw in the end zone. So Chris Harris it's going to be really interesting to see how the Chargers decide to deploy Chris Harris today, because Hayward's out and he's their best nickel. Or do you want him on the perimeter where you got rid of Desmond King, you still have Michael Davis? So it'll be really interesting to see how the Chargers decide to use Chris Harris today with 2 guys really to focus on in Stephon Diggs and Cole Beasley. So that being said, let's flip it over to the defensive side of the ball. Trent Murphy not playing. Why do you think, Dave, that Trent Murphy was inactive today, despite the fact that he's pretty much, with the exception of the Kansas City game, been a starter for this team all year?
Could be AJ Epinesa time, man. It could be time to get a little bit more pass rush going for this team off the edge. I think that, Trent Murphy, while he's been okay, setting the edge in the run game, decent. I mean, our run defense hasn't been that great. So I'm thinking the bye week was a good time to get AJ Epinesa kind of, more reps. He had the nice play, obviously, against the Cardinals before he injured himself, but he's back and healthy now. Like Jeff said, he wants to see a little more from Jerry Hughes. Not that Jerry Hughes is playing badly, but to step it up a notch. So I think this is the chance that the Bills are saying, like, we need to generate some pass rush from our front 4. And at this stage, maybe it's the time that a guy like AJ Epinesa could do more for you in that department than a Trent Murphy, especially because Trent Murphy's likely gone after this season, probably not going to re-sign him. And AJ Epinesa is a future hopefully somewhat of a cornerstone piece on that line. You drafted him in the second round when you didn't think he was going to be there. So you got to give him a chance. And, to make Herbert uncomfortable, you got to get him on the ground. So I think that's part of why you're seeing Trent Murphy inactive for this game. The Chargers aren't exactly a dominant running team. With Eckler back, your concern's more about him catching passes probably than running. Now he's a good runner as well, but I think that's probably it for me. I think you got to get Epinesa a chance and let the pass rush get at least maybe that half of extra body, half of extra guy that's better at rushing the passer.
But before we get to Brian here, we have a comment here from Andrew Golsinki, and he says, I'm in Florida, can't watch the game. A couple other people have commented that they can't watch the game either. So if you don't have NFL Sunday ticket, or you don't feel comfortable going out to the bars because of the whole whole COVID situation and watching the game at a bar, which usually has the Sunday ticket, Pierre is he's not live streaming the game. We don't want to get into any trouble like that. But Pierre will be live streaming. According to him in the comments section earlier, Pierre on the Buffalo Fanatics account will be live streaming his reaction to the game. So you can get yourself a play-by-play from Pierre, and you can see Pierre react to everything in real time. So if you're missing the game and you don't feel comfortable illegally streaming or heading out to a bar, check out the Buffalo Fanatics account where Pierre will be live streaming this game. Let's get back to the defensive line now. And we have Brian, AJ Epinesa. Is this the game where the rookie shows up and shows out?
Yeah, absolutely. Trent Murphy hasn't been doing much all year. Epinesa can definitely is better in the coverage, rather drop back. I don't see him getting to the quarterback as much as he should be for what he was drafted. But I think this is the game where he's healthy and he's ready to play. I do see him kicking ass today.
All right. Before we go, I want to get everyone's hottest take from this game. I want to get everyone's hottest take from this game. And before I get your hot take, I need to premiere our new hot take video that we will play before every single game.
Oh my God! We're having a fire sale! Oh, the burning! It burns me! Evacuate all the school children! Ah! Oh, mate! This isn't a fever! Sing, Gray! Can't even see where the knob is!
All right, gents. What is our
development? What a great show.
What is our hot take? What is our hot take for this game today? Dave, we'll start with you.
All right. My hot take for the game today is that it's not likely to happen. But my hot take for the game today is that one of our two running backs has 100 yards rushing. First time all year, I think. I don't think we've had anybody rush for 100 yards yet this year from the backfield. I think this could be the game. I think if Moss gets rolling, let's say, or Singletary gets rolling, they may stick with a guy who's kind of feeling it. And they're going to have to be super efficient because I don't think there's going to be 30, 35 carries to go around. I think you're talking 15, 20, low 20s carries potentially. So my hot take is let's get that running game going today. Run away from Linval Joseph, like you mentioned. And let's get that going and get one of our guys to 100 yards. So that's my hot take for today.
Brian, what's your hot take for today's game?
Josh Allen with 400 plus yards, one rushing, 4 passing touchdowns, and Gabe Davis is going to have a breakout day today. He's going to have at least 2, maybe 3 touchdowns. Watch for Gabe Davis when everyone else is going to be on our stars like Beasley and Diggs.
All right. I got another video clip for you, and then I'm going to ask you to pick another player.
Wild card, bitches! Yeah!
Who's today's wild card? Who is the player we are not expecting to show up and show out that is going to end up making a game-breaking play that ends up sealing this game for us? Brian, let's start with you.
Wow, that's a good one. It's I'm going to have to go to a running back. I think to get the guys on their toes, Zach Moss or Singletary is going to have to gash these guys on the ground before we can start letting it up and get Josh Allen those 400 yards. Let's give it to Singletary. I haven't seen him in a while. It's time for him to break his shell and have a kick-ass day today.
All right, Dave, who do you think is going to be the wild card player today?
Wild card player for me today isn't an under the radar player, but is a guy that we need to kind of have a good game today. And not that he won't, but we need Trey White to be a guy that comes up big today on Keenan Allen. Keenan Allen's going to get his, we know that. But if Trey White can create a turnover, whether he forces a fumble or maybe gets an interception, that could be a pretty big momentum changer, maybe early in the game. Maybe we finally do something well in the third quarter. But I'd like to see Trey White come up with a takeaway today, whether he forces one and doesn't necessarily get it himself, or whether he gets it himself through a fumble recovery or a interception. I want to see Trey White do something of that nature today.
All right. Got one more for you.
I pure, straight hate you. But God damn it, do I respect you.
Who on the opposing team do we have to respect this game? Dave, I'm going to start with you.
We got to respect Mike Williams, man. I mean, we know Keenan Allen's going to match up with Trey White. Hunter Henry's going to be doing his thing over the middle. We've struggled against tight ends, but Mike Williams is a guy that worries me, and we need to respect him. He's a big play waiting to happen. CB2's kind of been an issue for the Bills for most of this year. Herbert's not going to be afraid to chuck it down the field. So Mike Williams is a guy, man, I don't hate him, but man, we got to respect him.
Brian, how about you?
Yeah, it's gonna have to go to our boy Sherbert there. I like calling him Sherbert. I don't know why. It's rookie. He wasn't expected to start. Tyrod Taylor got hurt. Hope he gets better. And he's stuck in a situation where he's playing now, and he's playing lights out football. You got to watch out for him. You get him going. That's going to make a difference between 42-10 versus 42-35. So
I'm going to be calling this guy Sherbert from now on.
No Keenan Allen and no Joey Bosa. I'm shocked. I'm shook.
Oh, I mentioned Keenan Allen.
All right. Yeah, you mentioned him a little bit. All right. Last one, folks. All right, it's time. Show us the money. Brian, we've already heard Dave's prediction. What is your prediction for this game? We got about 1 minute left.
42-10, Buffalo Bills.
Oh my!
Wow! On the way to the Super Bowl.
That's also the under, by the way. That is also the under. So,
exactly.
All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, that is Brian, his Breaking Tables podcast with his co-host Mark. Doesn't debut because it's been a thing. People know it. People heard of it. He's kind of a big deal. But it airs every Tuesday morning. So check it out. There will be links on the Buffalo Fanatics social media accounts, as well as just straight up searching it on Apple, Spotify, any of your major podcasting platforms. It is the Breaking Tables podcast. Thank you so much, Brian.
Guys, thanks for having me so much.
Hey, no problem. Thank you so much, Dave. Until next time, and by next time I mean about 30 minutes after the game with Rico, go Bills.
Let's go
Bills.
Buffalo.
I like that enthusiasm. There we go.
We're going to the Super Bowl.
Where's that enthusiasm?
Would you rather be than right here than right now?
What's in that?
Where is that enthusiasm from you, Dave?
I'm more of like the even keel guy. I bring the balance.
You know what I am?
Wild card, bitches!
Yes, that is awesome, guys. Thank you so much.
See ya.
Later, guys.